What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
8 nanoseconds. Chapter 246. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Konoha Island, night falls. After the battle at noon, a large number of pirates gathered here. But many pirates left before night. Only a small group of pirates still stayed here. Konoha Island, in a forest. Today is the day of the decisive battle and the day of the gathering. After a busy day, Suyu and Whitebeard drank wine in the forest. Originally, Suyu wanted to ask everyone from the Super Dimension Pirates to come over for a drink, but in the end he was the only one. Because Senju Hashirama is the owner of this island, after all, there are a lot of pirates in the morning, and something will inevitably happen, so he has to deal with it. Tornado saw Ram, and Rem and several other women, because they didn't like to drink, they didn't come. Wu Luki watched today's duel, and suddenly wanted to go out to practice swordsmanship. Everyone could understand that he was stimulated. After all, he himself is a swordsman, holding a magic sword with 1,000 blades, although he doesn't care much about his swordsmanship during the day. But he is a swordsman after all. This is beyond doubt the mother. And the other crew members of 713 did not come because of their own reasons. In the end, only Suyu, Whitebeard and some crew members were drinking together. Suyu, for some reason, when I saw you, I remembered what happened to us. Whitebeard picked up a jug of wine and poured it down, then wiped the foam from the corner of his mouth. Looking up at the stars in the sky, I don't know what I'm thinking about. It seems to miss the past. Remember the first time we met. At that time, you were just a person. I haven't boarded Locke's boat, but time is like flowing water. After so many years, my body is not as good as it is now. Whitebeard sighed softly. There is always some nostalgia when people grow old. He is also included. A few decades have passed, and you have formed a new big family. Suyu also sighed slowly, raising a jug of wine to meet him. After the Battle of the Valley of the Gods, you disappeared for decades. These decades have been really regrettable. D Suyu. After Whitebeard finished speaking, he laughed out loud. Only a few people who have a good relationship with Suyu dare to call him an hole. Come on, I'm gone, it's too late for everyone to be happy, Edward. The corner of Suyu's mouth raised slightly, but he smiled faintly. In the past 2 decades, too many things have happened. The former crew members Kaido and Linlin have also become 4 emperors, the Roger pirates are disbanded, and Roger himself has been beheaded. Whitebeard sighed. After all, Roger had once it is also his competitor, and the two often clashed in the sea. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Although they are enemies, they often have contacts after all. The so-called heroes cherish heroes, and the two often drink together. Roger finally got his wish and became the One Piece, and knew the location of Lefroff's final island. But not long after being terminally ill, he went to Marine to surrender and was subsequently beheaded. Yeah, time flies so fast. Suyu took a sip of wine. Then Yang Tian sighed. For him, time really flies quickly, because he traveled directly, allowing a person with the ability of time to forcibly travel to the world 20 years later. Everything is right and wrong. Whitebeard is old, Roger was beheaded, and the former Locke's cadre died and injured, many of which were secluded. Kaido and Linlin got rid of the status of Locke's crew, and they rose quickly with Whitebeard, becoming the 4 emperors in just a dozen years. Suddenly there was a sound of footsteps not far from the woods. Then a pirate known to the world at sea, the red-haired Shanks came to the two of them. Red hair, are you here too? Whitebeard turned his head, naturally paying attention to him. But there is no good face to him. After all, the relationship between the two is not friendly. I brought the wine here personally, I guess you shouldn't mind it. Shanks smiled and sat down beside the two of them familiarly. Then he picked up his own wine and visited them in front of them. This is a wine that has been kept in my hometown for many years. You can taste it, Shanks said and opened the wine that was in front of the two of them. A strong and refreshing fragrance suddenly came in. This wine made from the best grapes has been buried in the ground for decades. Naturally it becomes a very rich and sweet wine. This kind of wine is undoubtedly the most attractive to wine lovers. Boy, you still have the sincerity. Whitebeard looked at the big jar of sweet wine, grumbled and laughed. Although he has a bad relationship with Shanks, he has no hatred with the wine. Shanks took out a few bowls and poured wine for them himself. But if you think about it carefully, this is not an exaggeration, because Suyu and Whitebeard are both from the old age. In terms of seniority, they have a higher status than Shanks, the 4 emperors rising in the new era. Especially Suyu, he seems to be young now, but he was once one of the big 3 at sea in the old age. In terms of strength, it is far above Shanks. Shanks also understands this relationship. But the main reason is still because, when he came rashly, he must show his sincerity. Otherwise, the conversation between the two will certainly not allow outsiders to intervene. You should have seen Mahawk. Suyu picked up the wine in the bowl, a few people touched a glass, and then started drinking, wiping the froth from the corner of his mouth. I haven't seen him for a while. Since my arm. Shanks touched the broken arm at the shoulder. The 3 people talked a lot this evening. After all, the 3 are now the big 3 at sea. Naturally, there are also many topics. Holy land, Mary Geoise. What's going to hold a meeting again? What's going on this time? In the Holy Land, Akainu melted the phone worm in his hand on a bed in a luxuriously equipped hospital in Mary Geoise. It's really time for the leaders of the world government to be replaced. Meetings must be held for anything big and serious. He spoke grimly. Since Su Yu's arm was cut off, his temperament has changed drastically. Chapter 247. Secure Asset Portal. Your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. You need to heal your body now, and you also need a good temperament, otherwise it will aggravate the injury. A woman wearing a nurse's costume beside him was somewhat worried and dissuaded. Since Akainu came here, his anger has almost never been relieved. If he stays angry for a long time, it will also cause a huge load on his body. Get away. Akainu unplugged the infusion tube in his body, pushed the nurse away, and walked outside. Su Yu, I remember this hatred. He stroked the burned arm with a hideous face. There was endless anger in his heart, and only Su Yu's death could make him calm down. Question mark 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 Holy Land Mary Geoise, meeting room. Squeak. The door of the conference room was opened by Akainu, and Akainu walked in fiercely and sat in his seat. Oh, it's terrible, Kizaru said in a strange way. Let's say nothing, no one will say anything about you. Facing his yin and yang words, Akainu didn't have a good face. The arm naturally melted into molten slurry, with black smoke. But he didn't burn the table under him. It is enough to prove that his development of fruits is top level. Silent. When is the time now? Do you still want to fight in the nest? Marine Marshal Sengoku, who was standing right in front of the meeting room, shouted. Marshal, is there anything to call everyone today? A Marine senior asked. Does Su-Yu want to join 4 Emperors Shanks and 4 Emperors Whitebeard to attack the Holy Land Mary Geoise? A Marine senior asked nervously. Everyone took a sigh of relief when they heard it. According to the current situation of Marine, if there were 3-4 Emperors level figures attacking the Holy Land Mary Geoise, they may not be able to resist it. Hinoha Island is guarded by members of the Super Dimension Pirates. We Marine can't get in at all. The news inside is not clear, but I am not calling everyone for Su-Yu. Sengoku sat in front of the meeting room and said solemnly. Dao. Besides the scourge of Su-Yu, is there any other bad news? A senior Marine asked tentatively, nervously. Now they Marine hasn't heard good news for a long time. Morale is also much worse than before. I'm old and I want to get down. Sengoku sat quietly on the chair in the conference room, and said in a deep voice. Sure enough, hearing this, everyone felt cold. What, Marshal, the situation of our Marine is not optimistic now. Retiring at this time will have a significant impact on Marine. A Marine executive panicked immediately. Their current Marine's combat power may even be the Super Dimension Pirate Group. Can't compete. If it loses another important combat power, it will have too much impact on Marine. That's why I called everyone here to discuss this matter, and Aokiji will be the next Marine Marshal. Sengoku didn't mean anything, but directly explained the purpose of calling the crowd. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Although Aokiji is a little lazy during the day, at least he is much better than the 2 next to him. Akainu used to be mature and stable, but his mentality has completely changed since Su-Yu was burned by him and he became very irritable. And Kizaru is not to mention, although his strength is good, but he is not interested in the position of the so-called marshal. Both Aokiji and Akainu used to have the ability to hold the position of marshal, but since the top of the war, Akainu's mental state has obviously dropped a lot, and Akainu is basically not considered here for all the steel bones. Seeing that everyone was silent, Sengoku continued. In that case, let Aokiji. The words were not finished, but Akainu forcibly interrupted with words. I object, are you ignoring me directly? Akainu slapped on the table, smoke billowing from his body, and the molten table burned down the table under him. It is enough to prove that he was angry. Just kidding, where is there such a treatment? In terms of merit, I am 2 Aokiji, and I am not inferior to Aokiji in terms of strength. Now that's the result, Akainu is certainly not convinced. Sakazuki, in your current situation, this martial position is not suitable. Gang Gukong said from the side. Find flowers. I have done much more for Marine over the years than Aokiji, and I have never experienced it. Why didn't I take the lead? Akainu forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart. Roared low. Today's Marine needs a mature and stable person to lead them. Since your arm was lost, you have been stunned by hatred. Gengukong explained. Akainu is a strong temper. If he really makes him a marshal, with his personality, I am afraid that the next moment he will come up with a plan to fight Su-Yu. I have a fight with him, let's say it based on strength. Akainu could no longer suppress the anger in his heart, and roared. The result has already been set, this time it's just an announcement. Sakazuki. Sengoku said lightly from the side. Dot 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 dot. Guru. Lava rolled on the broken arm of Akainu. This is the Holy Land Mary Geoise, Sakazuki. Gengukong reminded. Akainu sullenly stood up, and left without looking back. On the second day, Chambord Islands. A few days earlier, Ace personally escorted Luffy to the Chambord Islands, and the people of the Straw Hat Pirates also met again in the Chambord Islands. According to the original work, they should have been photographed flying around the world at this time. Is practicing hard. But because of Suyu, they rescued Ace, and Luffy collapsed, and they came to the Marine headquarters, implying that the Straw Hat Pirates team met 2 years later. Because now the Marine headquarters has sunk into the sea. Zoro. In a piece of water near the Chambord Islands, there is a pirate ship with a man wearing green and white clothes with 3 swords on his waist. At this time, he was waving a huge barbell vigorously to exercise his body. Beads of sweat are on his face. The clothes have also been wetted by sweat. Chapter 248. 1001. 1002. Every time Zoro swings a huge barbell, this series of numbers will burst out of his mouth. He was deeply aware of his lack of strength, even though his body was scarred, he never stopped exercising. What's wrong, Luffy? Hearing Luffy's voice, he stopped swinging the huge barbell, and then took off the wet clothes on his body. What is showing is a whole body of muscles. Have you read today's news? Luffy ran over with the newspaper in his hand and said. Is there anything big in the news? Zoro gasped slightly, catching the newspaper that Luffy handed, and said. The moment he took over the newspaper, his pupils shrank violently, as if he had suffered a huge irritation. I saw 9 prominent fonts in the newspaper. Suyu, the world's largest swordsman. Zoro held the newspaper with his arms trembling slightly. He hurriedly read the contents of the newspaper. Once the world's #1 swordsman, Hawkeye Mihawk, lost to Suyu of the Super Dimension Pirates in a duel on Konoha Island. Suyu became the new world's #1 swordsman. How is it possible? How could he lose? The newspaper in Zoro's hand fell onto the ship's board. There was still an incredible expression on his face. Hawkeye in his eyes, Mihawk was the goal he had pursued in his life. Now, he was defeated by a stranger, which made him unbelievable. And how strong is Suyu who can beat Mihawk? As the content in the newspaper Luffy accurate? He still couldn't believe it, and asked Luffy next to him. It's true. This news has spread throughout the sea. There are many pirates in the Chambord Islands who are discussing this. It can't be wrong. Luffy nodded and said. Zoro stood there in a daze. Indeed, he couldn't accept this result. After all, Mihawk had the highest swordsmanship in his eyes. Suyu. I remember this man. Zoro thought to himself. His goal is to be the world's largest swordsman, but whoever gets this title will be the object of his challenge in the future. Of course, he will still follow the order, and the first one to challenge in the future will still be Mihawk. Speaking of the previous, he was shocked only because he couldn't believe that the goal he had pursued would be defeated. But the reason why he has fighting spirit now is because he feels more pressure and he wants to continue working hard. New world, an island. Suyu, the world's #1 swordsman. Tisk 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 ttt. He's the name to make people feel unhappy. A huge woman holding a newspaper in her hand, slowly speaking, and aiming it to the side Kaido. Suyu. At this time, he was full of anger, because he would never forget the person who made him suffer. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. You won't be happy for long. But the next moment, a slight smile appeared on Kaido's face. He teamed up with Linlin to find the 3 legendary ancient weapons. They believed that as long as they got these weapons, they would have no problem destroying Suyu. Holy Land, Mary Geoise. I just finished a meeting yesterday, why do we start the meeting again today? In a luxurious ward in Mary Geoise, a sacred man, a burly man was lying on the bed. Grumbling. The magma materialized and burned the big bed under him clean. Then he got up and walked to the meeting room. But the anger on his face was heavier than yesterday. First there was no arm, and then the position of Marshal Marine was also taken by Aokiji. And he worked so hard to make so many contributions to Marine, but in the end he didn't get anything. No one came to help in the duel with Suyu at the top of the war, nor did any senior Marine speak for him in yesterday's meeting. For a moment he felt that he had suffered from being targeted. This has given him the idea of wanting to leave Marine. Holy Land, Mary Geoi's meeting room. Everyone has arrived. Sengoku stood in the center of the meeting room, put his hands on the table, and opened his chin. But his face was not calm. Many Marine executives present also guessed something, and there must be a lot of bad news today. Today's news, please take a look at it. A Marine distributed a newspaper in front of every Marine executive who attended the meeting room. 4 emperors red-haired Shanks, and 4 emperors Whitebeard watched the battle between Konoha Island, the world's largest swordsman and the captain of the Super Dimension Pirates Suyu. Kizaru picked up the newspaper on the table and read the content. This news has been reported long ago. What do you mean by bringing it out now? Are you afraid that we have forgotten it? Akainu said coldly, saying what Marine Marshal Sengoku said in public. Because the idea of wanting to leave Marine has sprung up in his heart. There are 2 more below. Sengoku didn't say much about his rudeness, and anyone could understand that there was a big problem with his current mentality. Kizaru picked up the second newspaper and saw the contents of the newspaper impressively. 4 Emperors Redhead Shanks, 4 Emperors Whitebeard and Tsuyu unite. Morgans, one of the 6 emperors of the underground world, came to Konoha Island with a person with special fruit ability. Can watch everything in the night forest. Although it was finally found, several people beheaded. But the man finally gave the information to Morgans. This report was written by Morgans himself. It's not the most dangerous yet. The third one is the most dangerous. Sengoku felt a headache when he heard him read the contents of the newspaper. Is there any news more dangerous than the 4 emperors? Aokiji lifted the third newspaper on the table. The world's number 1 swordsman Tsuyu. In the battle between Mihawk and Tsuyu, Tsuyu finally won. He is now more threatening to our marine. Sengoku knew that with Tsuyu's personality, he would not join forces with the 3.64 emperors, and Whitebeard and Shanks did not have any friendship. In their opinion, this news is very likely to be the headline party. Then solve him as soon as possible. Akainu's half-handed molten mortar materialized, and he spoke with a billowing smoke. Now that they don't take the initiative to provoke us, it's already very good. How dare we take the initiative to initiate merits? Sengoku said helplessly. Are the Marines so useless nowadays? Akainu said coldly. Sakazuki, pay attention to your words and deeds. Gang Gukong was naturally angry at her words. Akainu stood up and gave a cold snort, and left the place without looking back. Sakazuki, Sengoku shouted while standing in the conference room, but he had already left. Chapter 249. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Konoha Island, Tsuyu's residence. Yesterday Tsuyu, Shanks, and Whitebeard talked for a long time in the forest of Konoha Island. I even drank a lot of fine wine. When he returned to his house, he fell into a deep sleep and didn't wake up until noon. It's time to get up. Tsuyu opened his eyes and saw the light coming in tomorrow outside the house. Squeak. He got dressed and opened the door in the house. As soon as he opened it, 2 familiar figures stood in front of him. Rem, is there anything wrong with Ram so early? He asked with a yawn. I don't know what happened to them. It's already noon now. Ram reminded irritably. Yes, Tsuyu, you can sleep too much. Ram said slightly mockingly from the side. Then what's the matter with you? Tsuyu scratched his head awkwardly and asked. Did you read today's news? Rem asked with the newspaper in his hand. I just woke up, what do you think? He smiled and squeezed Rem's face, and said angrily. Ah, it hurts, let go. Rem rubbed his squeezed face and handed the newspaper in his hand to Tsuyu. 12 inches. What can this news have as nothing more than yesterday's thing? Tsuyu took the newspaper that arrived. 4 emperors red-haired Shanks, 4 emperors Whitebeard and Tsuyu are allied. What's the situation? When are we allied? He frowned in surprise, thinking carefully about what happened yesterday. He just remembered that he talked with the 2 very late, and did not talk about the alliance. Suddenly he remembered something. During the conversation with the 2 of them yesterday, several people sensed that someone was watching them in the distance. They solved the man, and the clothes he was wearing belonged to Morgans, one of the 6 emperors of the underground world. I want to come now. He should have used the fruit ability to spy on a few people, and then reported to Morgans. Forget it. He shook his head helplessly and picked up the second newspaper. Tsuyu, the world's largest swordsman. As soon as he saw the words on the newspaper headline, he smiled helplessly. This title is still on my back in the end. He agreed to the duel because he didn't want to be annoyed by Mihawk all day, and added a touch of boredom. But now that he won the victory and won the title of the world's largest swordsman, he was afraid that he would have trouble in the future. For example, Zoro of the Straw Hat Pirates, he wanted to challenge Mihawk Hawkeye when he first went out to sea, but was easily solved in the end. He is a swordsman with great potential. With his character, he might really come to Konoha Island to challenge him. Tsuyu, there are many swordsmen outside the island who want to see you. Rem said from the side. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Sure enough, what I'm afraid of. He waved his hand helplessly, and then said. Stop it, there's no time to talk nonsense with them. Just kidding, he is most afraid of trouble. Even Mihawk is not his opponent. How could he meet those weak swordsmen? It's pure nonsense. Oh, this third newspaper is a bit interesting. Tsuyu opened the third newspaper. New Marine Admiral, Aokiji. According to the original book, Akainu was supposed to be Marine Marshal, but because he came to this pirate world, it caused a series of butterfly effects. Caused serious changes in this world. The content of this fourth newspaper is quite similar to the original. What original? Rem asked curiously. He is not a member of this pirate world, and he has never seen One Piece, so naturally he doesn't know what he meant by the so-called original. The original is the original. Tsuyu didn't give too much explanation to this, but pretended to be deep. What? Rem bulged his cheeks. It looks so cute. He stared at the fourth newspaper in his hand, with a playful smile on his face. Former Marine Admiral Sakazuki, leave Marine. He read the newspaper headline. But the newspaper did not clearly indicate why he wanted to leave, it just registered his record. Recorded how he climbed from an unnamed Marine to Admiral's position step by step. The original One Piece is Aokiji and Akainu fighting, and then defeated. Akainu became Marine Marshal, Aokiji left and joined the Blackbeard Pirates. But the situation now is that Aokiji becomes Martial Marine, Akainu leaves, and there is no battle between the two. And Akainu didn't know where he went. It is impossible to join the Blackbeard pirates. Because Blackbeard is dead. It's still morning. He checked the contents of the newspaper. It was clearly specified that Akainu left the holy place this morning. Mary Giois was missing. This pirate world has begun to develop differently from what I thought, and I don't know what the future of the pirate world will be like. He released the power of Zemingwo and burned the newspaper in his hand to ashes. Now this pirate world has become different because of his arrival. First, Naval Headquarters was hit hard, Ace was rescued, Whitebeard did not die in Naval Headquarters, and Blackbeard, who may be Luffy's greatest enemy in the future, was also killed. The world's #1 swordsman is no longer Hawkeye, and Zoro's ultimate goal is now also switched to him. In short, the world has changed a lot. But he was not worried that the world could threaten him. Similarly, there are few things that can attract him. The 717 he is most interested in today is actually the sentence between Locks and Roger before they died. I'm not going to die. He muttered to himself, for some reason he said this sentence. What are you talking about? How could you die? Rem said quickly after hearing his inexplicable words. Did something happen? Su-yu. Ram also asked worriedly. Nothing. He shook his head slightly. Konoha Island, coast. What? Why don't you let us in? In the waters outside Konoha Island, there are several pirate ships, and the captains are all powerful swordsmen without exception. After they heard that Mihawk lost to Su-yu, it was very difficult to accept. Although he is a pirate with a bounty of up to 5 billion, he is a swordsman. They want to know the answer, whether Mihawk really lost to Su-yu. Is there any shady in this? Who do you think you are? Without Master Su-yu's invitation, how can you see you if you want to? The man guarding an entrance of Konoha Island said. Is it because Su-yu is afraid? Mihawk is impossible to lose. He is the real world's #1 swordsman. There must be shady in this. Let me ask you to be clear. Seen by a pirate captain cannot enter, questioned loudly. Chapter 250. Both of them are swordsmen, and they only believe that one person is the world's largest swordsman, and that is Mihawk. They have all challenged Mihawk before, but they all failed miserably. Because of this, Mihawk has become their goal, and they admire him from the bottom of their hearts. Think he is the strongest. Su-yu, the captain of the Super Dimension Pirate Group, is undoubtedly the top in today's seas in terms of strength, degree of danger, bounty, and status. But he is strong. Has anyone seen him use swordsmanship? No. The live broadcast of the war on the top was interrupted, and no one saw the duel between Mihawk and Su-yu. So people never thought that Su-yu was good at swordsmanship. It's just that his ability is very mysterious and powerful. A man who had never used swordsmanship, but defeated Mihawk on Konoha Island. You know, he is the world's largest swordsman. Such a result naturally makes it difficult for the many swordsmen in the sea to be convinced. Neither of them rushed to Konoha Island on the day of the duel, because they believed that it was impossible for Mihawk to lose just by competing in swordsmanship. He is the world's largest swordsman, Hawkeye Mihawk. Su-yu must have used some other means to defeat him. He can't be defeated by swordsmanship alone. The captain of another pirate ship shouted. Presumptuous, is this the place where you come presumptuous? The man guarding an entrance of Konoha Island roared. Su-yu is the captain of their island owner Senju Hashirama, and Senju Hashirama created this island so that those who like peace can stay away from disputes. This makes the man respect Senju Hashirama very much, and Su-yu is his captain, and he respects his captain very much. I even want Su-yu to be the owner of this island. Although it was finally rejected. The captain of their island owner was questioned by several pirates, which made him a little angry. How many pirates in your area want to see Lord Su-yu? It's a foolish dream. Even Mihawk wants to fight Lord Su-yu with the consent of Lord Su-yu. What are you guys? Another guarding the entrance of Konoha Island, the man said coldly. It must be Su-yu's other means to get him out to meet me, and I want to fight him personally. I want to see how strong the swordsmanship of the person who can defeat Mihawk is. The captain of a pirate ship stood. Shouted from the bow. Just you, want to see our captain too? Suddenly a voice came, and a man appeared in front of everyone. He has a cold face and looks like a strong man. In his hand, he held a somewhat broken blade. Master Wu Luki. The men guarding the entrance of Konoha Island hurriedly said when he saw him. Wu Luki is also a crew member of the Super Dimension Pirate Group, and is a companion with their island owner. What happened? What are these people going to do? He asked, looking at the ships on the sea. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Master Wu Luki, they should have read today's newspaper. The duel between Mihawk and Su-yu was the victory of Master Su-yu. They think there is a shady in it, and they want to challenge Master Su-yu. The man explained. You are also a swordsman. Are you also a crew member of the Super Dimension Pirate Group? The captain of a pirate ship saw the people guarding Konoha Island respectfully. It was the exit asked. My name is Wu Luki. He said coldly with his arms folded in front of his chest. The voice of the man who was talking to Wu Luki was a little low, and he didn't shout loudly, so naturally the pirates at sea could not hear the conversation between the two. What? You are Wu Luki, a member of the Super Dimension Pirate Group. The captain said in surprise. Then the crew next to him handed him a wanted warrant, and the portrait on it was exactly the same as the portrait of the man in front of him. Are you also a swordsman? The captain said calmly. So what? What is not? What do you want to do? Wu Luki felt like he was waiting for her at this time, speaking coldly and unkindly. Since you are also a swordsman, you must have seen the battle between Suyu and Mihawk. Did Suyu use despicable means? The captain frowned and asked carefully. Brush. Wu Luki demon sword thousand blades swung, slashing out a black slash, directly splitting the ship in front of him in half. What do you want to do? The captain was sweating cold on his forehead, and the blow almost cut him on his body just now, but the boat under his feet split in half. Captain, before long, this ship will sink to the bottom of the sea. A pirate around shouted loudly. The ship was neatly chopped in half, it was sinking at this time, and it would sink to the bottom of the sea in a short time. Suyu is not in the mood to do anything with Mihawk. Captain Suyu won the swordsmanship matchup. If you don't believe me, you can naturally ask the fellow Mihawk, what is the meaning of coming to my Konoha island to make trouble? Replied coldly. Good swordsmanship. On the next ship, the captain frowned and said. Quote. Diaresis captain, shall we leave here? A pirate behind him asked nervously. Leave. A smile appeared at the corner of the captain's mouth. It's been a long time since I met such a strong swordsman. He said with a lonely smile on the corner of his mouth. After all, he came to trouble Suyu, who was offering a bounty of up to 5 billion today. How dare you come here if you don't have the strength? Wu Luki, let's compete against swordsmanship. The captain stepped into the air, leaping high into the air, with a sword blade wrapped around armament hockey on his arm. Then he wanted to chop on Wu Luki's body. Brush. Wu Luki's complexion was flat, his arms and sword blades lingered around armament hockey, and then he chopped them on his body. Boom. The sound of falling into the water followed, and the captain was killed by Wu Luki and fell into the water in seconds, knowing nothing about life or death. Captain. A pirate shouted from the bow. Give you 3 seconds to turn your head and leave this place, Zhao Dezhao, otherwise those who stay will die. He stared at the people on the sea and said coldly. His voice seemed to have some magical power. Everyone shuddered. Numerous pirates on the sea hurriedly drove the boat away from here, and no one dared to save the captain who was chopped down and fell into the sea. Unexpectedly, there was no single move to cut him in half. It seems that I have to go and practice more. Wu Luki's speed was very fast, and he disappeared in a blink of an eye. So strong, is this the companion of the island owner? A man guarding the entrance of Konoha Island said with some palpitations. Fortunately, that slash was not on him, otherwise he would definitely not be alive now. Konoha Island, a tavern. Suyu entered a tavern and drank. Without Mihawk's interruption, his life was pretty good. The only thing was that he was a little boring. Chapter 251. Suyu took a sip of the wine and wiped the froth from the corner of his mouth, which seemed a bit boring. After a while, Suyu made a decision. Yes, he was going to go outside for a while, after all, because of Mihawk. The trouble caused to him did not disappear so quickly. Then stood up. Take out the money in your pocket and want to settle. Master Suyu, it's our honor that you come to drink with me, how can you pay for it? The tavern owner hurriedly pushed the money over and said with a smile. That's all right. Suyu didn't say too much polite words, he also knew that the other party really didn't want him to pay, and then put the money in his pocket. Konoha Island, seaside. Captain Suyu, the ship is ready, where do you want to go this time? Senju Hashirama originally wanted to drive Suyu to transform a ship with the power of the Hades battleship. Good guy, Suyu just refused, he just wanted to go out for a stroll, not to fight. Besides, his original purpose was to be less conspicuous. Go outside and come back in a few days. Suyu jumped into the boat, turned around and spoke. Of course, he didn't tell Senju Hashirama their real situation. Suyu will be back early. Rem and Ram waved their hands aside. They also want to go out with Suyu, but Suyu insists on 717 to go out alone. They also obeyed Suyu's meaning. Suyu, come back and bring me something delicious. As the boat was about to sail, Connor raised his little hand and said in a milky voice. No matter when it came, she couldn't get rid of her gluttony. Connor, during the time I was out, don't run around, be careful of being abducted by others. He smiled and said, for this very cute little Connor, no one can resist. In this way, Suyu boarded a small boat and left Konoha Island alone, drifting with the boat. Let it drift where? And he also killed a delivery pigeon on the road, took a newspaper and spread it on his face, and then fell asleep. I don't know how long it took. New world, a certain sea area. Captain, there is a small boat ahead. Do you want to shoot him out? A huge, big boat is about to run into Suyu's boat on the sea. If it is encountered, Suyu's boat will undoubtedly capsize into the sea. A pirate looked at Suyu's small boat, turned around and asked the captain behind him. Everything is a fixed number. It is also God's intention to meet this ship here. Hawkins sat on the ship's armor, and in front of him was the card of the servant. Suddenly he looked shocked, and the card in front of him fell on the ship's armor. There was a little cold sweat on his forehead. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. What's the matter with Captain Hawkins? A pirate could not help but ask, seeing him look like this. Drive the boat around and don't provoke him, otherwise our death rate is 100%. Hawkins wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, and then picked up the occupying card on the ship's armor. 100% killed. The surrounding pirates breathed a sigh of relief when they heard it, and they were shocked. And the pirate who asked the captain if he wanted to shoot, felt his feet soft. Unsteady standing. If he hadn't asked the captain in advance, he would be a corpse now. What kind of existence is the person on that boat? A pirate swallowed, resisting fear, and stood on the ship's armor to see the boat that was about to collide. Change the course, don't block his way. Hawkins took the occupying card in his hand and spoke again. He has already occupied the servant again, as long as they don't provoke him, they won't have any problems. Upon hearing this, the pirate at the helm quickly changed the course and left the boat far away. In their opinion, the boat looked like a plague. It's scary. New world, a certain sea area. Oh. The sound of seagulls echoed in Su Yu's ears. Where is this? He took the newspaper spread across his face, and stretched out. Stand up to the island in the distance. When he slept very dead, unless he perceives some danger, otherwise he will not wake up if he does not sleep for a day. So he didn't know until now that the ship ran into Hawkins' ship while it was moving. It's been a long time since I drifted. Let's see if there is any good wine on the island. He lit up with blue light all over and started flying to the island. A small island, a pub. Kid, have you read today's news? Kira asked, staring at the newspaper in her hand. What's wrong with Kira? Kid, who was drinking aside, asked. Look at today's news. Kira handed over the newspaper in her hand. Did something big happen again today? Kid took the newspaper handed over. Today, the group of them met the crew of the Linlan pirates in the sea. And attacked them. But the other party kept having companions to support them, and after they grabbed the treasure, they arrived on the island. All their crew members were killed, but Kira successfully ran out with him. Marine Admiral Sakazuki leaves Marine. Kid finished reading the headline in the newspaper, and then he burst into laughter. Then Kira next to him also laughed. Marine was hit hard, and now another admiral is gone, and our pirates will control the sea in the future. He was right, Marine was hit hard. Naval headquarters was sunk to the bottom of the sea by Su Yu, and there were countless casualties. Now that a Marine admiral is gone, it is undoubtedly worse for Marine. Suddenly the two felt a rush of heat in their backs, and there seemed to be molten tumbling and smoke behind them. Kira turned his head when he noticed the anomaly, and found a scary existence. What's the matter? Kid turned his head, saw the existence behind him, and swallowed the last word. There was a cold sweat on his forehead. At the same time, Su Yu's boat slowly landed. With the blue light emerging from his body, he floated up out of thin air, ready to find a place to have a good meal. However, in the air, Su Yu saw that many people were holding pots along the way, and then the water hurriedly walked. Just as he was surprised, he suddenly saw thick smoke rising from the center of the island. He was enveloped in blue light, letting him fly into the air, and then flew to the most central area of the island at a very fast speed. Are there pirates making trouble here? Su Yu frowned slightly and said, and the countless buildings under his feet burned. Many residents ran up in a panic. Many residents on the island plugged in water taps and connected water pipes to put out the raging fire. But the temperature of the flame is extremely high, and the water seems to be useless at all. Suddenly he saw several doctors carrying the two men out. Although he has never met these two men in this world, he is very familiar with the original book. Kira, he murmured to himself. Kid and Kira had extensive burns on their bodies, and their faces were extremely difficult to recover. Unconscious. Chapter 252. He stood in the air, muttering to himself, thinking about something. Kid and Kira are also pirates of the evil age, pirate supernova. If they can be burned by the fire, then he really doesn't have to live. Able to use fire abilities, and powerful. Could it be Ace? Suddenly he thought of a possibility, that is, the captain of the second division of the Whitebeard pirates. He is powerful and possesses burning fruits. In this new era, the bounty has reached the level of 500 million, and he is the older brother of the original protagonist Luffy. If he used his hand to severely wound Kid and Kira, it would not be surprising. Does Ace have any enemies with Kid? Ace was only rescued from the top war not long ago, and he has a very friendly personality. It is impossible to enmity Kid. It is more unlikely that Kid deliberately seek revenge. Because they all know that Ace is the second division captain of the Whitebeard pirates. As long as there is no problem in his mind, he will not provoke him actively. Akainu. Suddenly he thought of another possibility, which was once, Marine Admiral Akainu. Because of the registration in the newspaper, he had left the Holy Land Mary Geois yesterday. I don't know where to go. It's really possible. He raised his head and looked up at the horizon. Possess the ability to create flames. There are only pirates, not many. Ace can be ruled out. Only Akainu, who used to be Marine Admiral, might act on them. Akainu, the aftermath of the attack has caused many civilian casualties. It is indeed your style. Su Yu said with a sneer on the corner of his mouth. In the original book, Akainu is a cruel and ruthless person. In order to slaughter the archaeologists on the island where Robin is located, he directly used the demon-killing order to bomb the entire island. If I meet you, I won't be merciful, Su Yu said with a sneer on the corner of his mouth. Since the war at the top did not resolve him, now that he has news of him again, it is natural that he cannot be let go. He lit up with blue light, and then flew to the surrounding seashore. But he searched the entire seashore, but did not find Akainu. Have you already left? He looked at the endless, blue ocean, frowning, wondering if he wanted to catch up. Because the sea was so wide, he didn't know which direction Akainu had left. Forget it, I'll let you go this time, and see you next time, but I won't be so lucky, Akainu. He thought for a while and decided to go for a meal first. The sea is boundless and there is no target information, it is very troublesome to find. He flew back to the center of the island. Really, where is it not good to do it? I have to do it in the tavern. I slept all day and night. I have a bottle of wine and I haven't eaten a meal. He looked at the raging fire under his feet and stroked his abdomen, helplessly. Opened the mouth. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Help, help us. Suddenly a voice came under his feet. A mother and her child are holding a child in her arms. Because of the extremely high temperature, countless drops of sweat were stained on their clothes. It seemed to be swimming in the middle of the sea. The child in his arms looked very young, and the intense high temperature made him cry distressingly. The fire spreads very fast and the temperature is so high that water can hardly play any role. And they were in the sea of flames, surrounded by flames, unable to leave. Crunch. Behind them, the pillars of the wooden house collapsed. If it falls, the two will die. Swish. Su Yu took the mother and child away from the sea of fire at an extremely fast speed, freeing them from danger. As Marine Justice, as Marine Admiral, in order to deal with the two pirates, a raging fire ignited in the center of the island. After a while, the fire will spread to the entire island. Akainu, this is a good thing you did. He stared at the sea of fire in front of him, and the fire spread quickly. I believe a lot of people have died. Thank you, thank you. The mother opened her eyes and found that she was still alive, and quickly thanked her. Su Yu's body lit up with a dazzling light, and then manipulated these burning buildings to slowly lift them into the air. Then control them and fly to the distant sea. Boom. There were waves and ripples on the sea, and the sound of buildings falling into water continued. All the burning buildings were thrown into the sea by Su Yu. Find flowers. Although the fire caused many buildings in the center of the island to burn and many people died, at least the fire stopped. Is he sent by the heavens to save us? An old man looked at Su Yu standing high in the sky, and said with a trembling tone. If it weren't for Su Yu's throwing those burning buildings into the sea, they would not be able to put out the flames in a large area in a short time. If it was serious, it would sweep the entire island. After all, Akainu eats lava fruit, and magma has more than 700 degrees. Su Yu fell on the ground, and many residents knelt in front of him, expressing gratitude. Su Yu just asked them to give them a meal and drinks. 0. The reason why he helped them clean up the flames was because he felt that if the fire was not managed, let him continue to burn. The taverns on the island were all burnt down. When the time came, how could he take care of his already hungry stomach? Su Yu came to a tavern, and this tavern is also the best tavern on the island, and Su Yu does not charge any fees. Well, why is there a sudden large-scale fire? What happened? In the tavern, several men gathered together, drinking and discussing what happened today. I was polishing my shoes in the shop next to me, and suddenly I heard a noise, and then I saw the house burning, and the three men fought. But the tall man seemed to be very powerful, and the other two men completely not an opponent. A man carefully recalled what happened not long ago. Said to everyone. And Su Yu, who was drinking beside him, also thoroughly confirmed that the person working on the island was the original Marine Admiral Akainu. He is Marine Admiral after all, and Kid and Kira are just pirates with a bounty of more than 100 million yuan. Compared with Admiral Akainu, the strength is far behind. Loss is also normal. Hey, I don't know who that person is. I really should have been struck by the sky. Why did I want to do it? I burned down my shop. A man drank a sorrowful drink and saved half of his life. A shop was opened and was burned into nothingness in the fire. Million. Chapter 253. Secure Asset Portal. Your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Squeak. The door of the tavern was pushed open, and several men walked in and asked the owner of the tavern to buy supplies, beer and other supplies. Sorry, a few people, there is not much wine left in my house, and the rest is left to this benefactor, because he saved our island. Please buy it elsewhere. The boss said with a grin. Su Yu he had a lot of alcohol, and he was full of drinks around his body, as well as food plates. Don't eat for nothing, because the people on this island thank him for letting him eat and drink for nothing without spending any money. Why are you polite? We have bought drinks from other places on this small island. It's still a little worse. We can buy them at a higher price. A man who came to buy the drinks said. Sorry, we really don't have any drinks anymore. The boss is a grateful person, with a smile on his face. Boy, sell the wine to us. You can set the price at will. As long as it is not too excessive. A man patted his arm on Su Yu's shoulder and said. Not for sale. Su Yu took a sip of wine, wiped the froth from the corner of his mouth, and spoke without hesitation. Do you know who we are? The man was obviously annoyed when he heard this. Go. Su Yu turned around and spoke coldly. He hated being threatened. It's you. The man saw Su Yu's face violently contracted pupils, cold sweat fell on his forehead, and his whole body trembled with fright. Are you from Morgan's? Su Yu was taken aback and noticed the clothes of the men in front of him. Yes. The man stammered with fright, and the men next to him paled with fright. What's the matter with you guests? The owner of the tavern also noticed the abnormality of several men. Is Morgan's here? Where is he? He said with a slightly unkind expression, because there was still a balance between them that had not been settled. Yes, Lord Su Yu, I'll take you there. The man stammered, holding back his fear. Su Yu also stood up, took a bottle of beer and left, followed them, and went to find Morgan's. Wait, did you hear him say the benefactor's name just now? After they left, the tavern owner's face changed drastically. Ask a few people who are drinking in the pub. Su Yu, that old age giant with a bounty of up to 5 billion. How? It might be him. The few people who were talking in the tavern also stopped their movements. Somewhat unbelievable. Little fortune. The boss called a waiter in the tavern, and then asked him to take out the reward at sea. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Although they are civilians, they will also pay attention to the news in the sea, especially Su Yu, a super big pirate with a bounty of up to 5 billion, is well known in the sea. Yes, boss. Xiaofu took out a few reward orders from a cabinet in the tavern and placed them in front of him. Found it. The boss picked up a reward order with a trembling arm, on which Su Yu's name was written impressively. Su Yu, the pirate with a bounty of up to 5 billion, how could he be with us? The tavern owner was shocked and could not calm down. He felt a familiar feeling when he met Su Yu. Now it seems that their benefactor is the legendary big pirate. The legendary big pirate unexpectedly saved our island. The tavern owner's shocked mood was unable to calm down for a long time. New World Island, seaside. There have been many huge ships on the seashore, all of which are top-notch equipment. It is made of the world's precious materials and is very hard. The shells are infinitely powerful and far more lethal than ordinary shells. In these boats, Morgans, one of the 6 emperors of the Dark World, lived in the underground world. He is the big boss behind the World Intelligence Organization. My lord, we have already investigated Sakazuki's trail. He should have landed on this island. On a huge boat, Morgan sat on a chair, sipping sweet wine leisurely and basking in the sun. Predecessor Marine Admiral's whereabouts must be something people in the entire sea want to know. For our intelligence agency, this is a good opportunity. As long as we continue to spread his information, we will get a steady stream of money. Continue to investigate his whereabouts. With a smile on his mouth, he shook the wine glass in his hand, reflecting his bird face on the glass. Life is going well, Morgans. Suddenly a voice came into his ears, causing his brows to frown, but when he turned his head, he saw a very familiar face. On Konoha Island, Edward Shanks and I were drinking in the forest. You sent someone to watch us. Su Yu stood on the boat rail and said coldly. Why are you? Although Morgans was shocked, he was still one of the 6 emperors of the underground world, and he was still a little bold. I want to ask you, why are you here? Su Yu did not answer his question. Instead, he asked his whereabouts. We came here to track Sakazuki's whereabouts. He pretended to be calm and said. Facing a pirate with a bounty of up to 5 billion, if you say you are not afraid, it does not exist. If someone asks about his whereabouts, it is impossible for him to tell, and he will even be dealt with. But the one in front of him was something he didn't dare to provoke. So you guys have his whereabouts. When he heard that this person was tracking Akainu, he suddenly became interested. Now he really wants to get rid of Sakazuki, but he doesn't know where he is. We have mastered some of his whereabouts, and we will find him soon. Su Yu thought for a moment and said, 3.6 If this is the case, then I will not leave. Are you going to shoot Sakazuki? Morgans took a breath at the words, and said in shock. Of course, this is not also a good opportunity for you. The captain of the Super Dimension pirate group fought the original Marine Admiral Sakazuki. This news will spread throughout the sea, he said with a sly smile on his face. Morgans nodded when he heard the words, but when he saw his smile, he always felt a little uncomfortable. Take me to where you put your treasure. Su Yu immediately put away his sly smile, and said coldly. Regarding things on the island, this will naturally not be so easy to forget. It is bound to make him pay a little price. Chapter 254. Although Morgans wanted to say no, he was a pirate with a bounty of up to 5 billion. He knew sending people to monitor them, and he couldn't just leave it alone. In desperation, he could only obediently take Su Yu to the place where his belongings were placed on the boat. Your world news agency is quite rich. Su Yu looked at the dense gold and silver jewelry in front of him and said. These treasures are enough for him to exchange a lot of summoning value. Then Su Yu-sama, I will go out first. Although he was very upset in his heart, he had no way of doing it. In terms of seniority, the Su Yu in front of him is much taller than him. The pirate giant of the old age has a bounty of up to 5 billion, even if he is one of the 6 emperors of the underground world. In the face of Su Yu's identity, he has to call an adult. He stepped away from the place where the treasure was piled up under the ship, secretly happy. Even if you have 10 hands, how much can you take away from this treasure? He said to himself, and then a smile hung over his mouth. He thinks that there are so many treasures on the ship, even if he takes him to the place where the treasures are laid, he can't take much away. Looking at the mountain of treasures in front of him, Su Yu didn't waste any time, and quickly stretched out his hand and began to exchange the summon value. Exchange. Ding dong, congratulations on the successful exchange of host, and get 50 summon value. Ding dong, congratulations on the successful exchange of host and get 100 summon value. Ding dong, congratulations to the host for successfully redeeming and earning 200 summon value. After about a few minutes, all the treasures that were piled up like a mountain were exchanged for summon value, and the originally crowded basement instantly became empty. This Morgans is really rich and oily. Wealth is not much less than celestial dragons. The news of the whole world is distributed by them. But it is really a lot of oil and water in the world. He was stunned secretly. My mind came up with a strange note: when the summon value is needed, just come and rob him. Then he opened the blue panel that only he could see. He wanted to know if he had exchanged so many treasures and had his summon value reached. Host. Su Yu. Summon. Aizen 75%, Rem 70%, Hashirama 80%, Wuluki 70%, Jiraiya 70%, Tornado 70%, Wang Yi 65%, Denisha 65%, Kong Na 65%, Uchiha Madara 70%, Butterfly Channa 20%. Summoning character inheritance. Kido, Hogyoku 0500s Aizen Ghost Blood Rem Wood Style. Sage Mode Hashirama, Superpower 40%, Dragon Roll, Eternal Mangekyo 966 1000s Madara. Summoning Value. 34 400,000ths. Bring your own ability. Evolution. Special ability. Purple Fire, Max Thor 1036 2000 Armament Hockey Intermediate, 1999 2000 Observation Hockey, 1999 2000 Conquerors Hockey, 1258 2000 Read more at hotmtl novel.zi. Warehouse. Awakening Card X1. Mission call for 12 crew members 11/12ths. It's still 70,000 short. Su Yu looked at the blue panel and thought. Su Yu left the empty basement and came to the ship. I saw that Morgans had already sat on a chair, and there was a table and chair in front of him. Master Su Yu, please sit down. When Morgan saw Su Yu coming up from the basement without any valuables, he smiled with satisfaction. Go to him and ask Su Yu to sit in a chair. Master Su Yu, this is the wine that our boss has kept for many years, and I can't bear to drink it on weekdays. A woman brought 2 bottles of fine wine for the 2 of them. Morgans personally fell for Su Yu. Which direction is Sakazuki going now? Su Yu sat down in the chair with a wine glass in his hand, did not chat with him, but directly asked the key points. Based on the information we got, Sakazuki robbed a small boat in a sea area after leaving the Holy Land Mary Geoise. And he slaughtered pirates at sea for the past 2 days. According to the information we got, he should go to Jishenge Island now. Morganzi said with a sip of Chinese wine. When will our ship arrive? He drank a glass of fine wine, wiped the froth from the corner of his mouth and asked. Jishenge Island is a little far away from here, and it will be there tomorrow. How can you be sure that he will go to Jingshenge Island? Su Yu asked a key question at this time. Does Su Yu-sama don't believe our intelligence agency? The people in our community are from all over the world, and there are many pirates on the island of Jingshenge. Sakazuki left the Holy Land Mary Geoise these few days, but he killed the pirates aggressively. How can you let go of Jishenge Island, which is very close to this island? In that case, you will give me a piece of news now. Su Yu heard this, shaking the red wine glass in his hand and said. There was a questionable smile on the corner of his mouth. Master Su Yu, what kind of news do you want our intelligence agency to write? Morgans became interested when he heard the words. On the second day, the Holy Land Mary Geoise. The predecessor Marine Admiral Sakazuki wreaks havoc on a small island, causing numerous casualties. The upright world government, Marine Admiral, who is in a high position, why did he leave Marine and do such a thing? In the meeting room of Mary Geoise, the Holy Land, Marshal Sengoku read the contents of the newspaper with a heavy face. This news spreads across all seas of the world at an extremely fast speed. On this day, many participating countries refused to donate celestial dragons to celestial dragons. Because of this report, the world government's 720 impression among the people has been reduced a lot. The remaining franchise countries are also very hesitant to refuse to make offerings. This news has too great an impact on their world government. Aokiji, you are about to inherit my position and become Marshal Marine. Go out to sea and capture Sarkis, so that he can no longer damage the reputation of our world government. Sengoku sat on the chair, speaking with a heavy face. Dao. Sakazuki's departure is a great loss for them, Marine, but if Sakazuki rampaged in the sea to harm civilians, there will be more reports like this. They Marine will not be able to gain a foothold at sea. I see. Aokiji sat in the chair and said calmly. How many potential newcomers have been recruited in the world conscription? Sengoku didn't want to talk about it anymore, and asked about the world conscription. Marshal, because of Sakazuki's actions, many potential newcomers have a little distrust of the world government, and now many potential newcomers have left. A Marine executive stood up and said helplessly. The actions of their world government have shaken the hearts of the people more than once. The naval headquarters was driven to the bottom of the sea and suffered heavy losses. The sea pirates were rampant, and the world government was unable to capture them. Chapter 255. This seriously damaged their reputation as the world government. The key is that the news reported directly pointed to their pain points. Why did Marine Admiral leave the world government? Why does Marine Admiral have to deal with civilians? These 2 key issues completely made it difficult for the Marine government. If they used to rely on the influence of their world government, they could interfere even if they spread news about their world government. But now their power is not as good as before, and they have suffered heavy losses. Marine's senior management is busy with work day and night. No one has time to manage news reports. The most important thing is that they did not expect that Sakazuki would actually do something to civilians. Although he has left the Holy Land Mary Geoise, he was still Marine Admiral not long ago. Marine Admiral, the highest combat force in naval headquarters, did such a thing. It hurts them too much. Contact Morgans himself and ask him to make some changes to the news. Our world government is willing to make compensation. By the way, the salary of marine soldiers will be increased, and people will be sent to the participating countries to explain the situation. We cannot let more participating countries respond to the situation. Our world government is disappointed. Sengoku said solemnly. He knew that the 2 remaining 5 elders would be called to give a lecture again today, and a major meeting was held for 3 consecutive days. This time, he must be nagging for a long time. New world, a certain sea area. This report can be said to have lowered the hearts and minds of the world government a lot. Su Yu, sitting on the bow with a happy smile on his face, holding an intoxicating wine in his hand, said. Master Su Yu, your move can be said to have severely damaged naval headquarters. Morgans laughed from the sidelines and broadcasted the attractive news. Their intelligence agency can also make a lot of money. Boss, world government is calling. While the 2 were communicating, a woman was holding a phone worm. Walked to the 2 of them and spoke. Beep beep. Billy Billy. The phone worm made a crisp sound, echoing in the ears of the 2 of them. Master Su Yu. Morgans did not reach out to answer the phone bug, but turned his head to ask Su Yu's opinion. Let's take it first and see what they want to do. Su Yu pondered for a moment and then spoke. Hey, this is Morgans. He answered the phone bug and asked in his ear. Morgans, we now ask you to revise the newspaper you published yesterday. Our world government will give you a lot of money. A high-level voice of the world government rang across the phone worm. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. A senior of the world government personally called Morgans, which is enough to prove that the world government is concerned about this matter. Morgans remained silent, his eyes drifting towards Su Yu, as if waiting for his answer. Want to revise the news to minimize the impact. Su Yu heard Marine's answer and couldn't help laughing. Marine wants to do this, nothing more than to stabilize the hearts of the people of those countries that join it. But it's useless to other people. Because I understand everything. Marine did this because it didn't want more franchisees to withdraw from the alliance. After all, they still need to make money from these franchisees. Is anyone next to you? Why is this voice so familiar? The phone worm frowned and accurately described the facial emotions of Marine, who was opposite the phone worm. Why, did you forget? I was the one who sank your marine headquarters. Su Yu grabbed the phone bug and held it in his ear. It's you, Su Yu. The upper marine's pupils on the opposite side of the phone worm shrank sharply, shocked to the extreme. He never expected that, regarding the news, even the captain of the Super Dimension pirate group, Su Yu, was involved. What do you want to do, Su Yu? The marine senior on the phone worm, acting calmly, said solemnly. Su Yu's insertion has made him a little at a loss. I thought that as long as Morgans was given some money, he could interfere with this news. But now it seems that it is not so easy to succeed. What do I want to do? It's what you Marine want to do. The news report is a fact. Marine Admiral Sakazuki blatantly killed innocent civilians on the island. Su Yu spoke with a sneer on the corner of his mouth, and said leisurely. This report was written by Mr. Morgans to pass the headquarters. The purpose is to combat the reputation of the world government in the sea. Su Yu, our world government and your Super Dimension pirate group should cease fighting and stop unintentional wars. The phone worm was silent for a long time before a voice came over. But you can tell through the appearance of the phone worm. The other party's mood is very heavy, and the frowning brows have never let up. I didn't want to start a war with your world government. Don't buckle the shit bowl. Su Yu took a sip of the wine in his glass and said. Diaresis Su Yu, what is your purpose? The senior man opposite the phone worm seemed to be 10 years old overnight, and even his voice seemed weak. I have no purpose. I just reported the news and modified it a bit. Isn't this the style of your world government? Su Yu snapped. Su Yu hung up the phone worm before the marine executives who were opposite the phone worm finished speaking. It's almost Jushengye Island. Su Yu lay on a chair and looked at an island at the end of the sea. There was thick smoke there, and there was no doubt that there was a big battle. And they will arrive on the island in no time. World government, in an office. A senior marine looked at the phone worm in front of him. The dull mood cannot be calmed down. This matter is going to be reported to Marshal Sengoku. The news, it seems that Su Yu was behind the scenes. Zhao's, he sat in a chair and thought about it for a long time, then stood up and walked out the door. Holy land, Mary Geois. Sengoku, the popular support of our world government is greatly lowered by your actions. There are only 2 judges left in 5 elders today. But their status is still the head of Marshal Sengoku. Marshal Sengoku, who was in front of the 2, kept his face dull and did not answer. Marine Admiral Sakazuki's departure from the world government has had a significant impact on us, but now he has acted like this. I think you should know how to do it. A 5 elders said. I have ordered Aokiji to capture Sakazuki. You didn't understand what I meant. There is no need to capture him now. As long as it is necessary to use all force to solve it, his life will dissipate in the long river of time. Another 5 elders said. Chapter 256. At the same time, the other side. There has been a big battle. Su Yu's boat was already close to Jishengye Island. The island was full of smoke and countless trees were lit. Master Su Yu, we are just following Sakazuki to spread his information. We don't dare to do anything, we can only rely on you. Morgan stood at the bow of the ship and said respectfully. If he is the big boss of the World Intelligence Organization, there is not much And he didn't dare to confront Akainu head-on, but he was urged by his interests to follow Akainu's thoughts. Suyu didn't speak, and his whole body flashed blue light from the starting point. Although he was floating in the air, he began to fly into the island. In the small town on the island, there were countless corpses of pirates, some of which were burned with only bones. The ancient trees were either destroyed or ignited, and the choking smoke rose. Are all marine admirals so cruel? Suyu looked around the island and didn't meet a single person alive, all pirates lying on the ground and lighting a flame. He knows that Akainu hates pirates, but when Marine encounters pirates, they usually capture them and take them back to prison. But this Akainu is directly destroyed. Don't let anyone go. 720 inches boom. The heart of a big tree was burned to the ground and fell to the ground with a loud noise, and then billowing smoke rose. Is it too late again? Suyu speeds up his flight and quickly looks around the island, but he doesn't see Akainu. There are just countless dead bodies. With lighted houses and big trees. There are still people alive. Suyu suddenly saw a man covered in blood on the beach, staring at the surroundings with trepidation. It seems to be confirming whether there are other people. Did Akainu attack you? Suyu flew in front of him and patted his shoulder with his hand. Ask the exit. Ah, the man was frightened by Suyu's shooting, and yelled in horror. Answer my question, Suyu said coldly. Hearing the threatening words, the man slowly turned his head, and his nervousness slowly relaxed. Because it wasn't the person he wanted to pat him on the shoulder. You, who are you? The man opened his mouth in surprise. He did not expect that there were other people alive on this island, and they were still people he had never seen before. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Wait, you are Suyu. The man's brain was running fast, and the next moment he recognized who the man in front of him was. The captain of the super-dimensional pirate group, the world's largest swordsman, the old-age pirate giant with a bounty of up to 5 billion, Suyu. I'll say it again to answer my question, who attacked you? He stared at the man in front of him and said coldly. Yes, it's Sakazuki. When the man saw Suyu, he obviously felt more fear than he encountered Sakazuki. Where did he go now? Suyu can already fully confirm that Akainu did it, but now he doesn't know where he went. He piloted the boat. Where did he go? His arm trembled and pointed in a direction in the sea. When did he leave? Suyu looked up at the sea area he was pointing at, and then asked. Not long ago. The man was pale and trembling all over, not daring to look up at Suyu. Because what he is in front of is not a simple character, but an old-age pirate giant who is unknown to everyone in the entire sea. Both are pirates, but the status of the two is different. The gap is huge, so the man felt great pressure. Suyu flew into the air with blue light all over, and thick smoke rose behind him. The fire burned all the buildings and countless big trees crashed to the end. After a while, the island would be swallowed by flames. Suyu looked up at the surrounding sea area, where there were many fragments of the ship, all of which were destroyed. It was Akainu who would do this. Destroy all ships. Then the flames burned the entire island, and as long as they didn't leave there, they would be swallowed by the flames. But if you leave, meet Sea Kings midway, or lose your energy while meeting other people, sinking to the bottom of the sea. Then even if there are survivors on the island, they will die. Akainu, what you do is amazing. Suyu said coldly, looking at where Akainu had left. This is a way to completely eliminate the pirates, and it can be seen that Akainu hates he's to the extreme. I won't let you go this time. A lonely smile appeared on the corner of Suyu's mouth, covered in blue light, and he started flying to the position where Akainu was sailing. New world, a certain sea area. Master Aokiji just got the news that Sakazuki left Jukumi Island. According to the position of the sailing, he should be heading to Hamonlu Island. On a marine battleship, a marine solemnly spoke to Aokiji who was sleeping in a chair. How long will we be able to reach the island of Hamon Road? Aokiji took off the blindfold on his eyes, sat in a chair, turned his head and asked. It takes about 3 hours. The marine solemnly said. Call me again when you get to the destination. Aokiji put on the blindfold again, and then lay down on the chair to rest. In order to clean up Akainu this time, Marine has paid a lot of money, 8 lieutenants, 1 admiral, and 8 marine warships. To destroy Akainu. Because the world government can no longer let Akainu live in the sea. If the consequences of his actions were to be made into reports by people adding more oil and jealousy. The impact on the world government is too great. New world, Hamon Road Island. Damn it, Sakazuki. The island was constantly fighting, and countless pirates fell. One pirate's arm was burned, and the other was holding a long sword, staring angrily at the man in front of him. A pirate is not worthy to live in this world. Akainu's body melted naturally, exuding heating temperature. At this time, he stared at the pirate in front of him calmly. Heaven dog. The molten lava in his arm was naturalized, and then a dog-like lava sprayed out from his arm and swallowed the pirate. The pirate was surrounded by molten slurry, and the heating temperature was continuously burning his skin. But for a moment, it turned into a pile of bones. Suyu, I will set foot on Konoha Island sooner or later and take your dog's life. When the name Suyu was mentioned, Akainu's face was full of anger. He was extremely cruel to Suyu. But he also knew that he was not an opponent at all. No matter whether it is physical skills or the degree of fruit development, they can't compete with it. Even his arm was burned by his fiery flame. He knows his current strength and it is completely impossible to fight Suyu. Chapter 257. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. He thought that Sengoku would give him his position after he abdicated, and many senior executives would agree with him. In this way, if he masters Marine, he can act on Suyu. But the facts are not as good as he imagined. Sengoku's steel bones, including many Marine executives, no one agrees with him. His plan was shattered and was targeted, which kept him away from the Holy Land Mary Geois. Once a Marine admiral, he is now ready to wander around the sea again to exercise his physical skills and fruit development. Because of Suyu, he hated the pirates so much, so he began to hunt and kill the pirates at sea. Akainu glanced around. No one survived. The island's buildings were blazing fire, and countless trees were lit and collapsed. The entire island was in a mess, filled with black smoke. Akainu left the island and boarded a boat by the sea. Want to leave here and continue to the next island to kill the pirates. Suddenly, not far from the ship, there was a huge cloud, and on the cloud stood an unknowing existence in the sea. That's right, it was four emperors Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. The two of them passed by here in search of the three major weapons, and they happened to meet Akainu's ship. Formerly Marine Admiral Sakari's. I didn't expect to meet you here. Charlotte Linlin always had a smile on her face, looking at Akainu. Just to say that she is fighting against Akainu alone is not letting go, not to mention that there is Kaido, who is also the four emperors, beside her. Kaido, Bigmom. Akainu's whole body became natural, and he stared at them solemnly. Even at his peak, it was difficult for him to fight the four emperors, not to mention his lack of an arm now. Ha ha ha. The former Marine Admiral Sakazuki not only burned an arm by Suyu, but also left the Holy Land Mary Geois. Now we are hit by us. Charlotte Linlin laughed. Heaven dog. Akainu didn't say much nonsense, and the whole body of molten lava turned naturally, and a Tengu-shaped lava was ejected from his arm, spraying toward the opponent's cloud, trying to destroy the cloud. Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido's arm wrapped around armament hockey, and the mace quickly wrapped around the high-level armament hockey. Then he waved hard. Disperse the sprayed molten slurry and fall to the bottom of the sea. When Kaido wanted to jump onto Akainu's boat and continue his attack, he was stopped by Charlotte Linlin. Sakazuki, our common goal is Suyu. Don't do anything with each other. Besides, you are not Marine Admiral anymore. Charlotte Linlin said with a smile on the corner of her mouth. Want to join forces with Akainu? Do you have a way to deal with Suyu? As soon as Akainu heard this, he stopped doing it. Then he asked. If he was the previous one, even if he faced four emperors, he would still not admit counsel. But now, he has long been blinded by hatred, and now he only wants revenge, and only wants to kill Suyu. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. He knew that his strength was difficult to achieve and he needed allies, and the four emperors in front of him were just suitable candidates. Why are we teaming up with him? Don't forget that he was Marine Admiral before. Kaido said with a glance at Charlotte Linlin with his mace on his back. Don't forget, he has a grudge against Suyu just like you. His eyes glanced at Akainu and slowly said. The way to deal with Suyu is naturally not telling you. As long as we join forces, we will let Suyu and the entire Super Dimension pirate group disappear into the sea sooner or later. Charlotte Linlin sent out an invitation to Akainu again with a smile. Although he broke an arm, don't forget, he is Marine Admiral. Naval Headquarters has the highest combat power. I'm joining you, but don't let me down. I must let Suyu disappear into this sea. Akainu said solemnly. He once hated pirates the most and wanted to kill them. Now he wants to join forces with the pirates. I have to say that his hatred for Suyu really reached the extreme. A step late again. Suyu stepped onto the island, just like the last island, black smoke soaring into the sky, corpses everywhere, and raging fires ignited and burned the buildings. There is Marine here. He was surrounded by blue light, staring at the sea not far away. A huge battleship of Marine arrived here. The configuration is much better than the General Tuma order. There is also a Marine Admiral on board, as well as 8 Marine top lieutenants. Strength should not be underestimated. It seems to be late. Aokiji jumped onto the island on the huge battleship Marine, entered the island, and saw a raging fire. Find flowers. Ice Age. His whole body was freezing rapidly, and his whole body exuded extremely low temperature. With his body as the center, it quickly froze around, and within a moment, the entire island was frozen. The raging fire was also frozen by the ice. Master Aokiji, you, look at the top. Suddenly a Marine's voice came into his ears, and when he looked up, he saw Suyu standing in the air. Suyu. The moment the originally lazy Aokiji saw Suyu, his energy was immediately concentrated. Watching him solemnly. I'm not interested in you, the world government, nor you, I'm just looking for Akainu. Suyu's complexion was calm, and he was standing in the air with a blue light. 0. What are you looking for him for? Aokiji felt a little surprised when he heard that Suyu was looking for Sakazuki. He didn't know what he was going to do. Do I need to report to you? Suyu glanced at him and said coldly, and then left the place to continue looking for Akainu's traces. Fortunately, he is not interested in us, otherwise we are afraid that we are going to die here. The Marine said with some palpitations. When he unintentionally raised his head and noticed Suyu just now, he only felt that his heartbeat was about to stop. Where did you go? Suyu searched for a while in the sea and never saw Akainu. It stands to reason that he should have driven the boat not far. He should have been found soon, but now he is completely absent. Akainu and Kaido Charlotte Linlin are driving the clouds to find 3 ancient weapons. The speed of the clouds is very fast, although not as fast as Suyu. But Suyu was looking for them in all directions in the entire sea area. If you know the location of a few of them, I'm afraid you will be able to find them in a while. Holy land, merry Geois. In a majestic palace, a person who does not know whether he is a man or a woman sits on the throne, his eyes are as sharp as an eagle. And there are countless famous swords stuck around the throne. In his hands, there are several bounties. The top bounty is Suyu's 5 billion bounty. Suyu, a person who has no record in the long river of time, it will not be long before you disappear. 1. Chapter 258. What's the situation? Is his boat that fast? Suyu wandered on the sea, looking for Akainu's trace, but there was no one on the sea and there was no trace of him. Who picked him up? Or, it wasn't him who shot the pirate. Suyu stood in midair, surrounded by blue light, thinking about something seriously. His speed is many times faster than that of a normal ship. Judging from the casualties and mess on the island, Akainu hasn't left for long. But when he rushed to look for his trace, there was none at all. It is logically impossible. Can he fly? Suyu thought of a strange answer. If the ship was traveling normally, he should have found it long ago. But now he is completely absent, which really makes people feel very surprised. Oh, Captain, you see someone flying in the sky. Suddenly a voice came into his ears. When he turned his head, he noticed a pirate ship behind him. Suyu. I saw a man on the boat wearing a clown-like costume torn apart and covering his face. His face was full of shock. Buggy. Suyu naturally noticed the pirate who looked like a clown. In the original book, Buggy is an intern of the Roger Pirates, and he goes on the boat with Shanks, and he is a brother with Shanks. In the original book, this clown Buggy is also considered a living treasure. Even if he boarded the boat of the Roger Pirates, his strength was still so useless in the end. Suyu was surrounded by blue light, and then landed on the boat of the clown Buggy. Captain Buggy. Is the giant Suyu of the old age. A pirate saw Suyu landing on the boat and backed away a few steps. With sweat on his forehead, he asked Buggy beside him. At this time, Buggy was so scared that he couldn't speak. The torn body hasn't recovered yet. Wait, I read the news that you are already in alliance with Shanks that B*************, D, which means that we are directly related. The clown Buggy, dragging his chin in his hand, started thinking for a moment. But his red nose like a clown makes people want to laugh. Red nose. Suyu stared at his big red nose and couldn't help but blurt out the words. Who do you say is a red nose B**********, D? Suyu. Before the words were finished, his brain reacted quickly, and the body that had been restored was torn apart again. Stopped quickly. What about the captain? A pirate asked in horror. Suyu's name can be said to be a level that no one knows in New World. In terms of the degree of danger and status, he is already above the 4 emperors. It is impossible to fight against them by virtue of their strength. No, Suyu. Shanks and I are good brothers, since you are already allied. Look at us. The clown Buggy has a torn body with a hand on Suyu's shoulder. Of course. Suyu's mouth raised slightly and said. But, his words changed suddenly. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. But what? Buggy the clown stared at him nervously, and the surrounding pirates swallowed unconsciously. Watching him nervously. You should have a lot of treasures here. Suyu's mouth turned up, staring at him with a smile on his face. Master Suyu, Shanks and I are good brothers. Can you? Buggy looked at him with an imploring look. Buggy is his favorite treasure. In the original pirate world, he is the only one who is earnestly looking for treasure as a pirate. Is a serious pirate. I only take a little bit, I don't think you will refuse. Suyu said with a smile on his mouth. What you said, you can only get a little bit. Buggy the clown is really familiar with everyone, even when he meets Suyu, he doesn't feel terrified. At the time of the war at the top of the original book, he dared to face it, facing Whitebeard, the head of the 4 emperors, threatening to take his head. This courage has to be admired. Even Suyu has some doubts whether Buggy is hiding his strength. After all, it's Roger's crew. Buggy took Suyu to the place where the treasure was stored under the ship. Sure enough, you are the only one who is serious about being a pirate. Suyu looked at the treasures piled up like a hill in front of him, although he slapped his palm on Buggy's shoulder and spoke seriously. Ah, what do you mean? Buggy was said so, it was a little unclear. You said, just take a little bit. Buggy's body was torn apart, and his palms made a small circle in front of him. I see. Suyu had a smile on his face. Watching the mountain of treasures before him, he didn't hesitate much. Exchange. Ding dong. Congratulations on the successful exchange of host, and get 10 summoning points. Ding dong. Congratulations to the host for successfully redeeming and gaining 5 summoning points. Ding dong. The redemption failed. Please don't use the rubbish to redeem it. Wait, why is your treasure so worthless? Suyu suddenly stopped his movements, turned his head and asked Buggy behind him. He usually exchanges treasures above 50, and he really hasn't seen 5 o'clock. It can only be said that these treasures are not valuable. Wait, where is my treasure? Buggy dragged his chin and stared at him sternly. He saw the treasure disappear after Suyu's hand. I ate it. Su Yu continued his work. Although this treasure is not very valuable, it is at least there. In less than a few minutes, all the treasures that were piled up were all exchanged by Su Yu. Where is my treasure? Buggy finally woke up from the shock, his upper body wandering in the empty basement. I'll only take a little bit. Su Yu walked to the corner of the basement of the ship, then picked up a dilapidated crown and spoke. You ate all the treasures. Buggy covered his head and stared at Su Yu in shock, as if seeing a ghost. It tastes good. Su Yu stretched out his tongue and licked his lips. Then opened the blue panel that only you can see. Host. Su Yu. Summon. Aizen, 75%, Rem, 70%, Hashirama, 80%, Wuluki, 70%, Jiraiya, 70%, Tornado, 70%, 3.6 Wang Yi, 65%, Denisha, 65%, Connor, 65%, Uchiha Madara, 70%, Butterfly Channa, 20%. Summoning character inheritance. Hito, Hogyoku, 0500s, Aizen, Ghost Blood, Rem, Wood Style, Sage Mode, Hashirama, Superpower 40%, Dragon Scroll, Eternal Mangekyo 861,000, Madara. Summoning value. 380,000 400,000. Bring your own ability. Evolution. Special ability. Purple Fire, Max Thor, 1036 2000 Armament Hockey Intermediate, 1999 2000 Observation Hockey, 1999 2000 Conquerors Hockey, 1258 2000. Warehouse. Awakening Card X1. Mission call for 12 crew members, 11/12. It's still 20,000 short. Su Yu muttered to himself while staring at the blue panel. Chapter 259. Then you kill him. Su Yu looked at the Lieutenant General Marine with a playful smile on his face. Although he knows Buggy, he doesn't know him so well. Don't you care about his life? If you don't surrender again, I will kill him. The Marine Lieutenant General heard Su Yu's answer like this, and he was a little panicked, as if he never thought he would answer like this. Master Su Yu, help me. Buggy hurriedly called for help at this time, fearing that Su Yu would really ignore his life, and the Lieutenant General Marine behind him would really do something to him. It's ugly, Ben, how can we Marine do such a thing to threaten others? Aokiji looked at Ben with disappointment. He didn't expect that in Marine, someone would threaten others to convince their opponents to defeat. This behavior disappointed him too much. We are not his opponent at all. If we don't do this, we will all die. Lieutenant General yelled. He knows Su Yu's strength, whether it is about his deeds or his strength, he has heard about it. This 12 legendary character appeared in front of them, making them unable to resist. Swish. A flash of lightning ran across the sky, flying at extremely fast speed, and then pierced the head of the Marine Lieutenant General. Blood sprayed. Boom. The body fell to the ground and died completely. Lieutenant General Ben. On the Marine battleship, many Marines shouted in horror. The lightning was so fast that before they noticed, the lightning had already arrived, piercing the head of Lieutenant General Ben. With this method, they can't defend at all. This is the real strength of the old age giant Su Yu. A top Marine Lieutenant General stood on the battleship, staring at Su Yu solemnly. If others may not be able to see it, but he can see that Su Yu has always been able to play against Aokiji without any real strength. Only when the lightning pierced the head of Lieutenant General Ben was the time for him to display his true power. I'm still alive. Buggy's body was torn apart, and his hands kept touching his body to make sure that he was alive. The flash of lightning just flew over his head, and if the lightning penetrated his head, it would be him. This made him feel scared for a while. You still need to hone, Aokiji. After eliminating Lieutenant General Ben, Su Yu turned his head and stared at Aokiji. Slowly spoke. Su Yu. Aokiji looked at Su Yu solemnly, knowing that even if he worked hard, he could not be Su Yu's opponent. There is still a huge gap between the two. There was silence on the sea, and time seemed to have been pressed by the pause button. Whether it was the clown Buggy or the many Marines, they were all silent. Waiting for Su Yu, who was like a king, to speak. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. If I didn't guess wrong, you should be a Marine Admiral soon, right? Su Yu watched Aokiji slowly and said. He said so. There is a basis, because Marshal Sengoku in the original book highly recommended Aokiji as Marshal. But many of Marine's senior executives value Akainu. But he came to the pirate world and caused a series of butterfly effects that changed the ending. One of Akainu's arms was burned by him. The combat power is greatly reduced. It is impossible for Akainu to leave the Holy Land Mary Geois for no reason. There must be a reason for leaving Marine. The reason for this, he guessed, was the position of the Marshal. How do you know? Aokiji covered the wound with one hand and looked at Su Yu with a slightly surprised expression. You want to change the status quo of Marine, right? Su Yu looked at him with a slight smile, and said slowly. According to the original work, Aokiji wanted to climb higher because he wanted to know more about the truth about the world. Otherwise, with Aokiji's lazy character, it is really impossible to imagine that he will make a big shot with Akainu because of the position of the Marshal. What do you want to do? Aokiji stared at him with furrowed brows. I don't know what his thoughts are. A person like you can indeed guide Marine. This sea area cannot be without world government, but I am not interested in your world government. As long as you don't provoke me, I won't bother to care about you. Su Yu slowly said. What he said is correct. The sea area cannot be without world government. The sea area has three major balances, 4 emperors, Shichibukai, and world government. Although it is the three major balances. However, only 4 emperors and the world government can maintain a balance. Shichibukai can't stand aside at all. Although the world government concealed history, it was led by the nauseous celestial dragons. But their original intention was to catch the pirates. If this balance is lost, only real turbulence will occur in the sea. He is not a saint, nor is he concerned with the lives of other people. But if the sea area is really turbulent and the world government falls, then they will be in trouble as pirates. After all, the sea is huge, but there are many folk masters. At that time, there will be constant wars. He also considered letting the Revolutionary Army Dragon overthrow the world government and become a new one, but there is still too little information about him in the original book. He doesn't understand dragons. Therefore, the leaders of the world government can only change, not fall. Aokiji is the right candidate. How much do you know about IM? Su Yu suddenly asked. In the entire world government, the only thing that can make him feel the slightest threat is that very mysterious Yim. There are very few descriptions of him in the original work. There is no way to speculate. Whether it was his rush to the Holy Land Mary Geois or the sinking of Marine 723, he did not appear. Everything about him is very mysterious, everything about him seems to be nothing in history. It's impossible for such a mysterious character to be without strength, otherwise why would 5 elders surrender to him? How does he control the world government? Control the entire sea area? Aokiji's pupils shrank sharply when he heard the name, and he didn't expect Su Yu to have an idea for What do you want to do? Aokiji forced himself to calm down and asked. As Marine Admiral, it's impossible for you to not understand him. Su Yu asked with a smile on his face. I don't know. He is too mysterious. Only 5 elders, the leader of the world government, is qualified to see him. Aokiji shook his head and responded, although he is Marine Admiral. But I still couldn't reach Forget it. Su Yu was surrounded by blue light, and then flew back to Buggy's boat. Leader of the world government, don't let me down. Su Yu turned his head and said when he landed on the boat. Only when the world is balanced can it settle down. He originally wanted to ruin the reputation of the world government. Get rid of this force. But he thought about it again. The world government can't fall, the sea is disrupted, and no one can survive. Even Konoha Island may be attacked. Chapter 260. Su Yu landed on Buggy's boat, and the man at the helm of Buggy quickly left the place, for fear that the marine behind him would attack. Even if they knew that it was impossible for the marine behind them to attack them, their fear of Marine Admiral was still deep-rooted. After all, they are pirates. Su Yu landed on the boat and found a chair to lie down in the sun. Nothing happened anyway, and now there is no trace of a Kainu. Master Su Yu, where are you going next? Buggy asked Su Yu with a smile and rubbing his hands. I didn't ask, where are you going? Su Yu suddenly sat up, staring at Buggy and said. The character Buggy is in the original book, but simply wants to make money. Now his summoning value is still 20,000 short, so I have to follow him during this time. See if he can find the treasure, and then he will get the treasure in exchange for the summon value. Just turn around. Buggy looked up at the sky, rubbing his hands on the back of his head and said. Su Yu turned to look at the surrounding crew. Without exception, no one dared to watch his eyes, either looking up at the sky and whistling, or scratching the back of his head. Did you get the treasure map? Are you going to dig the treasure now? Su Yu noticed their abnormality and turned to ask the Buggy in front of him. Well, Buggy sweated on his forehead, still afraid to look at his eyes, smiled and stroked the back of his head and looked up at the sky. Really? Su Yu stood up, smiling, looking at Buggy. Buggy still refused to admit it, and stroked the back of his head with a smile, but the cold sweat on his forehead became denser. Don't worry, I will only take a little this time, and the rest is yours. Su Yu has confirmed that Buggy has a treasure map, and now his route is to go to the location of the treasure map. Last time you said you only took a little bit. Buggy's head flew in the air, whispering inwardly. What are you talking about? Su Yu lay down on the chair and stared at Buggy, and said with a smile. His face is full of profiteers. Master Su Yu, you drink tea first. Buggy brought a chair from somewhere, with a teapot and cups on it. Then he poured a cup of tea for Su Yu himself. Master Su Yu, where do you want to go? Let's take you back. Buggy's body was torn apart, his head flew in the air, and his hands were constantly rubbing. Okay, I really only take a little bit, besides, what do you do if you dig the treasure? Dig and dig into marine territory. Su Yu took a sip from the teacup, and then smiled. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. In the original book, Buggy and his team got a treasure map, went to dig the treasure, and then dug up the secret base of Marine. Successfully imprisoned in Impel Down. That's right, Buggy said solemnly, rubbing his chin with his hands. Take me, even if you meet Marine, I can save your life. I almost died just now. Buggy turned his head again to spit into the air. What he said just now was about being hijacked by Lieutenant General Ben. At that time, he really thought he was going to die. You said, just take a little. Buggy flew in front of him with his head and hands, and then said with his fingers. Then show me the treasure map. Su Yu nodded slightly and said. He really only wanted to take a little bit. Because want to summon the next crew member, only 20,000 summon value is enough. Therefore, he will not be greedy, and only take treasures worth 20,000 summons. Don't lie to me, you really can only take a little bit. Buggy's red nose leaned close to his face and said, and made a small hole with his hands again. A little bit. Suyu nodded with a smile. Opened the mouth. Then his eyes fixed on Buggy. The character Buggy doesn't know how to say it, as if he is not afraid of him at all. If ordinary pirates meet him, they are afraid to die. Let alone bargaining with him. But this Buggy was shocked for a while when he met him for the first time, and now, it seems that he is not afraid of himself at all. He seems to have forgotten that he is an old age giant with a bounty of up to 5 billion. He dragged his chin with his hand and looked at Buggy solemnly. This made him think about whether Buggy really hides his strength. In any case, it is Shank's brother, Roger's crew, who shouldn't be so weak. At this time, Buggy didn't seem to be afraid of his gaze at all, with a solemn face, dragging his chin to watch him. Why do I always feel that you are unreliable? Do you want to eat my treasure again? Buggy dragged his chin and said seriously. Don't talk nonsense, take out the treasure map. Suyu also stopped thinking about Buggy. It doesn't matter to him whether he hides his strength or not. Buggy took out a crumpled treasure map from his clothes and handed it to Suyu. Suyu took the treasure map and stretched it out, then stared at the pattern on the treasure map. Quote. Diaresis, is this island the end? Suyu pointed to an island on the treasure map and asked. That's right. Buggy also looked closer, and said. It's not far from here. Suyu threw the treasure map over and continued to lie on the chair. The 12th crew member is stabilized, but he does not know which world the 12th crew member is from. Oh. Buggy saw the flying treasure map and quickly grabbed it with his hands, and Shinhao was not blown into the sea by the wind. Captain Buggy, there are sea kings. The pirate at the helm suddenly shouted. Shoot and get rid of him. Buggy yelled at the pirate at the helm. Captain Buggy, that sea kings, it's a bit huge. The pirate at the helm was pale and hesitated. A bit huge. Suyu sat up from the chair. Zhao Lahao was surrounded by blue light, although he flew into the air, staring at sea kings not far away. This is really big. The moment Suyu flew into the air, he was shocked by the sight not far away. I saw a huge sea kings ahead. Although it did not appear, the endless sea was the shadow reflected by its body. As sea kings this big again. Suyu frowned and stared at the shadows on the sea. There is no doubt that sea kings is too big. Wait, I can summon such a big sea kings. Could it be her? Suyu suddenly recalled the plot of the original book in his mind. This pirate world has 3 ancient weapons, each of which has the ability to destroy the world. And it can only be the sea king that can summon such a huge sea kings. Chapter 261. Aquaman is a mermaid princess who communicates with sea kings. Every hundreds of years, there is a mermaid princess. The last time the mermaid princess with the name of Aquaman appeared in the blank 100-year history, 800 years ago. The contemporary Neptune is the mermaid princess White Star. Wait, the White Star is not in the mermaid island 10,000 meters under the sea, how could it appear here? Suyu was surrounded by blue light, standing in the air thinking. Now my resistance to sea water is 80%. Let's go down and take a look. Suyu muttered to himself, and then flew straight to the sea. Master Suyu. Buggy saw Suyu leaving the boat, and quickly shouted, thinking that he had abandoned them and left alone. Captain Buggy, Suyu-sama, he has fallen into the sea. A pirate standing by the boat turned his head and shouted. He saw Suyu fall into the sea with his own eyes. What? Buggy stared at the pirate in shock, then ran to the side of the boat and looked up at the sea. There was no figure, and no figure of Suyu was seen everywhere. He fell. Buggy stared at the pirate with an incredulous expression on his face. 723. It's the real Captain Buggy. I just saw Master Suyu fall. A pirate next to him said. Demon fruit power falls into the sea, but it is bound to die. Lord Suyu, what do you want to do? Buggy looked at the huge sea kings ahead in thought. Use devil fruit to become a land duck, which is known to everyone in the sea. And he swallowed devil fruit on the Roger pirate ship, and then fell into the sea. He found that his body was contaminated with seawater, and his body was weak. Had it not been for Shanks at that time, he had found the anomaly and rescued him. At that time he died in the sea. Unexpectedly, the bounty is as high as 5 billion. Suyu, the captain of the Super Dimension pirate group, will fall into the sea and die today. A pirate said in silence. If Suyu heard this sentence, he would definitely come out and beat his dog head. Master Suyu, can't live anymore, young ones, quickly change the course. Go to the island and burn some paper money for Master Suyu. Buggy shouted to everyone on the boat. Yes, Captain Buggy. The pirates on the boat also began to busy themselves. The pirate at the helm also quickly changed the course and left this ghost place. I don't feel anything right now. Suyu fell into the sea and swam in the sea. He himself has 80% resistance to seawater, and his physical skills are also top-notch, so he can stay in the sea for a period of time. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Captain Caribou. Now, what should I do now? In the depths of this sea, there is a pirate ship. The surface of the ship is coated with bubbles, so it can be isolated from the sea. I don't know either. In front of the pirate ship, there was an extremely large sea kings. It can be said that it occupies most of the sea area. In the original book, Caribou was 10,000 meters under the sea only 2 years later, but because Suyu came to this world, it caused a butterfly effect. The original pirate world has undergone earth-shaking changes. Caribou ran to the sea 10,000 meters in advance 2 years in advance, and hijacked the mermaid princess Bakesing. At this time, the mermaid princess had not yet awakened the Sea King's physique. She was brought here from 10,000 meters from the bottom of the sea, and she finally awakened the Sea King's physique and summoned a huge Sea Kings. The Sea King stared at the white star on the ship, and the many pirates. He did not attack, because his body was too large. If he attacked, it might hurt the white star princess. Captain Caribou, why didn't this Sea Kings attack us? A pirate asked Caribou next to him. They have been in a stalemate in this sea area for some time. Neither party acted rashly. With the huge body of Sea Kings, it should be possible to destroy them easily, but Sea Kings kept watching them and did not do anything. Could it be she? Caribou turned his tongue out. Cold sweat fell on his forehead, and turned his head to stare at the huge mermaid princess Bai Xing who was crying and crying behind him. The body of Bai Xing 2 years ago was not as large as 2 years later. I know about Captain Caribou. This Sea Kings was summoned by the mermaid princess. I don't know how to summon it, but the Sea Kings hasn't done anything. It must be afraid of hurting her. A pirate's head responded to the inquiry, guessing what happened. So, a smile appeared on Caribou's face. When they first met the Sea Kings, they all thought they were dead. Because the Sea Kings are too big, they can easily destroy their ships. Can you hear me? If you can understand, leave quickly, otherwise. With a sinister smile on Caribou's face, he took out a blade from his body and placed it on Bai Xing's neck. Speaking towards Sea Kings. Although Sea Kings couldn't understand him, he was obviously panicked when he saw him holding a blade on Bai Xing's neck. But he did not dare to attack the ship. Get out of here quickly, or don't blame me for being impolite. Carib showed a more sinister expression when he saw Sea King's reaction. His tongue turned out and licked the blade in his hand. Then he rested on Bai Xing's neck. Although Sea Kings didn't understand what he was talking about, he knew that he couldn't save Sea King when he saw such a scene. It looked around anxiously, hoping that someone would come to rescue their Sea King. Carib, you are really capable of holding a mermaid princess. Su Yu finally swam to the side of the boat at this time. At this time, his body was already a little weak. Who? Carib heard someone shouting in the deep sea, with dense cold sweat on his forehead, watching the surroundings. Su Yu passed through the bubble coating and landed on the ship's armor. The original physical discomfort has all gone away. Because of the protection of bubble coating, there is no sea water around. Su Yu, old, the giant Su Yu of the old age. No one thought that Su Yu would appear here. You, why are you here? Caribou's face was full of shock, and dense beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. I didn't expect to meet you here. You are so courageous. Even Sea King dared to hijack it. Su Yu stared at Carib and said coldly. Then he glanced at the mermaid princess Bai Xing, and he found that Bai Xing's body was normal at this time, not as large as 2 years later. I don't know what the White Star has gone through in the past 2 years, and it will be so huge 2 years later. Since he can summon the huge Sea Kings behind him, that means it's clear. At this time, the White Star had already awakened Neptune's physique. Have the ability to destroy the world. Chapter 262. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Master Caribou, now, what should I do now? A pirate said with a trembling tone. Su Yu's name is too loud, and now appearing in front of them, dare to ask who is not afraid. Sir Su Yu, if you want. I can give her to you. Capri's tongue stretched out, his face covered with cold sweat, and was terribly scared. I have no interest in the mermaid princess. Su Yu approached him step by step with a smile. Although Sea King is one of the 3 ancient weapons, it has the power to destroy the world. But he has no idea about destroying the world. Master Su Yu. Kabu was pale inside, with no bloodshot eyes visible, his back was cold, his forehead was covered with cold sweat, and the blade in his hand had fallen to the ground long ago. Fight with you. Capri watched Su Yu approaching step by step, knowing that he could no longer survive, and was heartbroken. He took out a machine gun from his abdomen and tried to shoot Su Yu to death. Captain Capri. The surrounding crew members were surprised to see him make such a move, because the pirates in front of them were not ordinary pirates. It's a bounty of up to 5 billion, the giants of the old age. Snapped. Su Yu was surrounded by blue light at extremely fast speed, grabbing his neck and lifting him in the air, and the machine gun was also burned into nothingness by his Zeeming Woe. Captain Capri. The surrounding pirate crew felt a deep despair. They knew the gap between themselves and Su Yu. What are you thinking about? I didn't want to kill you, but, you actually want to do something to me. Su Yu's face became cold, and his pupils stared at him firmly. Then he threw him out of the boat with a shake of his hand, but demon fruit power could not swim in the sea like him. Capri was thrown into the sea and instantly lost his resistance, unable to move. Boom. The sea surging violently, the huge Sea King saw Capri being thrown out of the crew, opened his blood basin and ate him directly. It can't attack Capri on the boat, but it can swallow him in one bite after getting out of the boat. Captain Capri was eaten. The pirates had a chill on their backs and witnessed the death of the captain with their own eyes. How come a pirate only has the consciousness of killing, but not the consciousness of being killed? Su Yu stood in the air with a sneer. Now that you become a pirate, you must be conscious, whether it is killing or being killed. Kill you, it will dirty my hands, you jump out of the boat yourself. Maybe you can survive. Su Yu landed on the ship's armor and spoke calmly. Fight with him. Knowing that there is no hope of survival, a pirate turned his head, looking pale at Su Yu, holding a long sword in his hand. It's really troublesome. Su Yu shook his head helplessly, and then used superpowers to throw all the pirates off the boat. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. He didn't want to fight on the boat. If he broke the bubbles on the boat, it would be a little troublesome. Thanks. Thank you for saving me. Bai Xing, who has been crying, rubbed his red eyes and said to Su Yu. She was playing in the castle, but suddenly a few strangers appeared and hijacked her. She kept crying on the way. Then somehow, this huge sea kings was summoned. Thank you too. Then she thanked the huge sea kings outside the ship. The constitution of the awakened sea king is the ability to communicate with sea kings. Sea kings also understood his words, and was a little happily rolling in the sea. It's the sea king who can destroy the world. This sea kings is really big enough. Su Yu muttered as he watched the sea kings outside the ship. The sea kings outside the ship are several times larger than the ordinary sea kings. Today's Bai Xing hasn't realized that he is Neptune. If Bai Xing truly realizes that he is Neptune, then in the sea, it can be said that no one dares to bully. Has the ability to summon sea kings across the sea. If all the sea kings gather, then even the 4 emperors would have difficulty contending. If Bai Xing falls into the hands of some lawbreakers and is controlled, it will definitely cause a devastating blow to this world. But today's White Star is still a kind-hearted mermaid princess, and has no ambition to destroy the world. I borrowed this boat. You can go home by yourself. If you are a little bullied, you will have sea kings to help you as long as you cry. Su Yu said to the White Star behind him. Thank you. What is your name? Bai Xing asked Su Yu's name. Find flowers. Su Yu. He nodded slightly and said. Thank you Su Yu. Bai Xing rushed over and hugged Su Yu into his arms. Thank you with a smile. Stop. Let go of me. Su Yu hurriedly broke free from her chest. Standing above the ship. Today's body of Bai Xing is not huge, only a few meters in length. In terms of appearance, it is also one of the best in pirate world. You can communicate with it. Let it take you back. Su Yu pointed to sea kings behind him and said. He knew that Bai Xing must have not remembered the way, crying and crying along the way. Do you know how to get to Mermaid Island? Bai Xing asked towards the huge sea kings outside the ship. It doesn't know either. Bai Xing turned to look at Su Yu after getting the answer. Dot 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 dot. Why are you looking at me? Su Yu had an unknown premonition about how she was watching. Master Su Yu, can you send me home? Bai Xing grievedly watched Su Yu and said. Trouble, don't send it, go home by yourself. Su Yu shook his head. It was too troublesome to send her home. He just wanted to get the treasure, save enough summoning value, and then summon the 12th crew member. Master Su Yu, Bai Xing said with a bulging face, grievously. No, Su Yu's attitude was calm, because he was not a saint, it was already good to save her, and it would be too troublesome to send her back. Su Yu knew that the ship could not stay, Bai Xing would definitely ask him to send her home, but he would definitely not go if he was afraid of trouble. Now I had to leave the boat and swim back. What do you want to do? Just as Su Yu was about to leave, the huge sea king suddenly stopped in front of him. Although sea kings could not understand what he was saying, he could understand what Bai Xing was saying. According to Bai Xing's words, it knew that Bai Xing wanted to go home, but the man in front of him would not send it. Forget it, forget it, do you have any treasure on Mermaid Island? Su Yu suddenly turned around and asked. Yes. Bai Xing nodded quickly. All right, I'll take you home. But I have a request. Su Yu swam back on the boat again, and then spoke. As long as you can send me home, I will agree to any request. Bai Xing saw Su Yu come back and hug Su Yu in his arms. Million. Chapter 263. Stop, keep your distance. Su Yu quickly got out of his arms and stood above the ship again. I can take you home, but I need compensation, which is the treasure of your Mermaid Island. Su Yu stood in the air and spoke slowly. Mermaid Island is also a country, at least it has a lot of treasures, and I heard that there are delicious pastries there, even 4 Emperors Linlin is very greedy for his pastries. This time, I can just taste the taste of the so-called pastries. But the most important thing is actually the treasure, and now he still has a summon value of 20,000 to summon a new crew member. Although Buggy has a treasure map, it is still uncertain whether there is any treasure in it. Even if there is a treasure, the value of the treasure is still unknown. It's better to go to Mermaid Island. A country must have a lot of valuable treasures. Yeah, as long as you take me home, I will definitely let the Emperor send you treasure. Bai Xing nodded quickly and agreed. Go on the boat first, head to the Chambord Islands, and then send you back. Su Yu landed on the boat again and saw Bai Xing pounce again, so he quickly dodges. Don't hug me casually, or I won't send you home, Su Yu said with his arms folded over his shoulders. Okay. Bai Xing nodded a little aggrievedly. Boom. Suddenly, the sea was surging violently, and the huge sea kings looked at Su Yu on the boat with a bit of a bad look. Let it leave here, and I can take you home alone. If it follows, we will be very troublesome if someone finds it on the way. Su Yu said to the wrong Bai Xing behind him. Thank you, Master Su Yu said that someone will take me home, you should leave first. Bai Xing put his hands on his chest, looking at the huge sea kings and said. Boom. The sea rolled violently again, the giant sea kings did not leave, a pair of huge pupils stared at Su Yu. It seemed to be warning him. You tell it, if it stares at me like this, I won't send you home, you can figure it out. Su Yu turned his head and said to Bai Xing. Bai Xing quickly persuaded the giant Neptune. The giant Sea Kings finally left. After all, Bai Xing is the Sea King, and Sea Kings regards her as the king, which naturally concerns her comfort. But Sea Kings also knew that Bai Xing wanted to go home, and only this man could do it if he could help her go home. In the end, it could only obey Bai Xing's words and leave here temporarily. Okay, let's get on the boat first. Su Yu drove the boat to the surface. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Where did the buggy kid go? Su Yu drove the big ship to the sea. The sea was calm and the sea was screaming, but no one was seen. You can do it, you dare to leave me first. Su Yu looked at the endless sea around him and said. He didn't expect that Buggy dared to leave him behind and ran away. In fact, Buggy didn't leave him behind, but Buggy thought Su Yu was dead. Go to a nearby island and buy him paper to burn. Do you know how to sail? Sailing was too troublesome, and he looked at the white star behind him helplessly. No, Bai Xing shook her head. She stayed in the Mermaid Island castle all day, and had almost never touched the outside world, so naturally she would not sail. All right, all right. Su Yu shook his head helplessly. Then there was a blue light all over his body, and he quickly surrounded the entire big ship, letting the ship float in the air. He wanted to take her to Buggy's boat and let Buggy take her home first. He lay down on a chair to rest. But now the Buggy kid doesn't know where he is going. And the princess behind him can't sail, he can only use superpowers to float the ship and start flying. Master Su Yu, the boat is floating. Bai Xing looked at the ocean under the boat with some surprise. She was still young at this time. Full of curiosity about many things. Don't you have a boat on the Fishman Island? Besides, it's not that you can float in the air at any time in the sea. What's weird about it? Su Yu spoke disapprovingly. Use superpowers to float the ship in the air. Then fly quickly to the Chambord Islands. I stay in the castle all day and rarely come out. Bai Xing said, lying on the railing. That's miserable, Su Yu said without saltiness or indifference. Master Su Yu, how did you make the ship fly? I also want to learn. Bai Xing said with the twinkling stars in his eyes. You can't learn it. Su Yu floated in the air and shook his head slightly. This superpower is bestowed by the special ability of the system. Although Bai Xing is a Neptune and possesses the ability to destroy the world, there is still no system awesome. What? Bai Xing said with a puffed face. It looks really cute. But Su Yu faces Ram and Connor's cute faces every day, and is almost immune to cute people. Such an expression Su Yu saw in his eyes, and there was no mood swing at all. Master Su Yu, why did you save me and send me home? After a long silence, Bai Xing asked a question that was very important to her. Bai Xing lived in the castle since she was a child. Her parents protected her very well and warned her not to communicate with humans. Because human beings are a group of selfish bad guys. Sure enough, she was kidnapped by humans, but the person who saved her life in the end was also the human race. This makes her thinking a little bit contradictory. Because you are very valuable. Su Yu glanced at her, and spoke both indifferently. Master Su Yu, are you a bad guy? Bai Xing trembled as soon as he heard this, thinking that Su Yu wanted to sell her for money just like those people. Seeing that Bai Xing was about to cry, Su Yu quickly changed his words. Wait, I don't mean anything, I don't want to sell you, I just want to send you back, let your father give me money. If Bai Xing cried out, then Sea Kings would definitely be attracted. Then it will be a little troublesome. Although it is a small trouble 3.6. But don't forget, he is very afraid of trouble. Then Lord Su Yu, aren't you a bad person? Bai Xing asked cautiously. It's not good, but it's not bad. As long as I can send you back, let your father give me the treasure. Su Yu said calmly. The main purpose he sent her home was for the treasure of Mermaid Island. He needs to exchange treasure for summon value. Su Yu's flying speed is very fast, it has been flying for a day, and it will not be long before he will reach the Red Earth continent. After flying for a day, I haven't eaten a meal. You wait here for a while. I'm going to have a meal and come back. Remember not to run around, or I won't be responsible. Su Yu flew the ship nearby outside of an island. Then enter the island. Chapter 264. I see, Lord Su Yu. Bai Xing leaned on the rail and waved to Su Yu with a smile. Then he lay quietly on the boat, waiting for Su Yu to come back. Boss, bring the best wine and the best dishes. Su Yu stepped into the island, then walked into a tavern, sat on a chair, and started yelling. Sorry, guest, where are the best wines here? There are still some ordinary wines in the store now, do you want it? The owner of the tavern asked with a smile. Who is there? Su Yu asked when he heard that the wine was gone. They were all bought by the customer. The boss looked at Su Yu with a smile, and pointed to a few people who were drinking not far away. Are they pirates? Su Yu looked at the two people and asked. They are members of the Kaido pirate group of beasts. The boss glanced around, and after making sure that no one was eavesdropping, he whispered into Su Yu's ear. It was Kaido, that stinky kid from 12. Su Yu's mouth was filled with a smile. Not salty and not salty. Gu. Guest, keep your voice down. If someone hears it, it will lead to death. The tavern owner heard Su Yu's answer, and he was startled in a cold sweat. You know Kaido, one of the 4 emperors, has a very high status in the entire New World. The seemingly small man in front of him said that Kaido is a brat. How could it not be shocking? Few people in the entire sea dared to speak ill of Kaido openly. Because they will be hunted down by Kaido pirates. First bring the good food. Su Yu ignored him, stood up, exhorted, and walked towards the Kaido pirates. Guest. The tavern owner saw that Su Yu actually wanted to provoke the beasts, Kaido pirates, and he was shocked in a cold sweat. It's too late for ordinary people to hide, and today they encountered a hard fork to provoke. Hey, Su Yu slapped his palm on a man from the Kaido pirates. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Those happy men who were drinking were suddenly slapped with palms on their shoulders. Naturally, it was very angry. Everyone had to take a detour when they encountered them. Today, someone took the initiative to provoke. The man who was slapped by Su Yu's palm on his shoulder stood up and yelled at Su Yu viciously. You kid, I want to find. But when he saw Su Yu's face, his last words were swallowed. Because he saw an existence like a devil. This existence left an indelible fear in their Kaido pirate group. Su Yu, the man said with a trembling tone, shaking his whole body. The back is cold. And it was this sentence he said that made the originally lively tavern instantly quiet, and the needles could be heard. Many people in the pub shuddered unconsciously when they heard this name. Because Su Yu's name is too loud in the entire sea. Su Yu. The owner of the tavern opened his eyes wide, then put on his glasses, picked up a bounty, and looked at Su Yu not far away. Just feel boundless acquaintance. No wonder he dared to provoke the Kaido pirates. His strength is stronger than Kaido. Su Yu's status, reputation, and strength in the sea are undoubtedly top, even 4 emperors can't compare. And a few days ago, there was a newspaper that Su Yu, Shanks, and Whitebeard formed an alliance. Shanks and Whitebeard are both 4 emperors in New World. Their reputation, status, and strength are only half of Su Yu. The alliance of these 3 makes Su Yu's status even bigger. There is such a saying in the sea that we would rather provoke Kaido than Su Yu. This sentence is an affirmation of Su Yu. Master Su Yu, what's the matter with you? The man's face was pale, his lips were bloodless, his body was shaking, and he spoke weakly. How dare you? Su Yu said with a slight smile. What? The man was a little dazed at 727, I don't know what Su Yu said. How dare you drink the best wine in this shop? Su Yu spoke slowly with a smile on his face. It was this amiable smile that looked like a devil in the eyes of the man. Master Su Yu, you. Slap. Su Yu slapped him on the face, placing him on the ground. The people in the entire tavern suddenly felt cold on their backs, and their hands holding the wine stopped in the air, not daring to move. For fear that the next person to lie down is them. It's in the way. Su Yu picked up a few bottles of good wine on the table, spoke slowly, and then sat back to his place. Why haven't the food come yet? Su Yu made a few bottles of good wine and found that the good food on his table hadn't come yet. Right now, Lord Su Yu, coming up right away, please wait a moment. The tavern owner wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and stammered. Chapter 265. Now he has put on his glasses and stared at Su Yu's cheek closely, making him feel the endless pressure. Because the man in front of him doesn't even look at the world government, the pirate giant of the old age, Su Yu, who is offering a bounty of up to 5 billion. Su Yu sat in his seat, sipping fine wine, but for a moment, the boss trembled and brought him the best food in the store. This wine tastes good. Su Yu drank the wine in the glass, ate the good food, and praised the tavern owner. Yes, many, thanks to Master Su Yu for the compliment. The tavern keeper gave a grinning smile. The rest of the tavern also felt great pressure. They stayed here at this time, trembling all over, not daring to leave. Many people stopped their movements and waited for Su Yu to leave. The several men who ate also reduced the noise caused by the movements of their hands to a minimum. In the entire tavern, only Su Yu was drinking and eating meat. Captain, we found a murloc on a boat off the island. The calm tavern did not last long. A pirate kicked open the door of the tavern and shouted loudly. But soon, he discovered the anomaly, because the tavern was extremely quiet, and many people were already watching him with dead eyes. What happened, Captain? The pirate still didn't understand the current situation, and turned to ask the captains who were eating. This pirate is also a member of the Kaido pirate group of beasts. Shish. The man who was slapped to the ground by Su Yu just now had slap marks on his face, with his fingers deep in front of his mouth, and he made a quiet gesture. What did you just say? At this moment, Su Yu stood up because he heard a news that was very unfriendly to him. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. When other people in the tavern saw Su Yu standing up, they felt cold all over, with cold sweat on their backs. It seemed as if he was being stared at by the devil. Who is your kid? Su Yu hasn't turned around yet, so the pirate doesn't know who he is talking to. The captain next to him was about to be scared to death at this time. He really didn't expect that his crew was so bold that he would dare to speak to Su Yu. He knew he was bound to die as a crew member, but fortunately he quickly turned around and ignored him. Can't be dragged down to death by him. What do you look at, you shit? This pirate of the Kaido pirate group of 100 beasts, relied on being a member of the 4 emperors pirate group. If these people in the tavern are scolded by the Kaido pirates, they will be shivering with fright. But no one is afraid of him now. They all looked at him with a look of death. And the pirate also seemed to have discovered the anomaly. Did you just say that you caught a murloc on a boat on the shore? Su Yu turned around, looking at the pirate coldly. Su Yu. When the pirate saw Su Yu's cheeks, he lost his face in shock, backed up again, and finally tripped over the door behind him. That murloc is a woman. Su Yu stared at him with an unkind expression, cold electricity blooming in his pupils. Yes, yes. The pirate was trembling with fright, and he didn't dare to lie at all, and answered truthfully. Swish. In Su Yu's palm, a strong lightning intertwined, then transformed into a spear, piercing the head of the pirate. Captain, we met celestial dragons, they. After the pirate was killed, another pirate rushed to the tavern and noticed the corpse lying under his feet. Who did it? He looked around with an angry look, and saw his captain shivering with his back to him. Captain. Before he could finish his words, Su Yu stepped up to him, staring at him fiercely and said. You just said what happened to celestial dragons. Small. Suddenly being approached so close, he was about to get angry, but when he turned his head, he saw Su Yu's cheeks, and was frightened incoherently. The words just swallowed. What happened to celestial dragons? Answer me. Su Yu can now confirm that the murloc they are talking about is White Star. God. Celestial dragons said they wanted a high price. Buy the murloc. The pirate said tremblingly. As soon as he entered the door, he ignored Su Yu directly, Zhao La Zhao. You know, Su Yu is the nightmare of their beasts pirates. The thought of this made his back chill. Then you go to die. Su Yu was surrounded by purple flames, and then covered the pirate in front of him. His body was instantly ignited. He let out a heart-piercing pain, but his body melted and disappeared in the next moment. Not even the bones were left. Su Yu quickly walked out of the tavern and rushed outside. Although I don't know why celestial dragons are here. But he knew that if he didn't go, Bai Xing would be in danger. He was surrounded by blue light and flew in midair, flying to the port position at an extremely fast speed. Chapter 266. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. In the port of the island, on a boat, there is a beautiful mermaid about 4 to 5 meters in length, but a huge net is covering him above his head. Several pirates stood beside him. It was these pirates who accidentally encountered the mermaid princess Baxing on Su Yu's boat, and then caught her with a net to prevent her from escaping. And on the other side of this ship is a celestial dragon's ship, if according to the previous, these pirates would not do business with the world government. But now the world government has been hit hard, and they are members of the Four Emperors Kaido, so there is not so much fear. Check 727 grams and see how much money we have on the boat. I want to buy this beautiful mermaid. On that huge marine boat, a celestial dragons, wearing a helmet like a fish tank, turned to the side. The man in black ordered. Master Moss, have you forgotten? Now that we have no money on board, we are now going to the Holy Land Mary Geois. The man in black next to him said respectfully. Boom. As soon as his words fell, the celestial dragons quickly took out the pistol from his belt, pulled the trigger, and shot the man in black in the leg. What? The man in black groaned in pain, half kneeled on the ground, but said nothing more. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. He was just a servant, and the celestial dragons in front of him had the right to put him to death at any time. No money. What should I do with my pet? The celestial dragon sniffed, then spoke viciously, putting the gun in his hand on the head of the man in black and said. You guys quickly kill those pirates, even if I don't have any money, I will get the slave. Celestial dragons looked at Marine not far away and said. This, Mrs. Moss, the other party is from Four Emperors Kaido. The Marines who were carrying their guns not far away all smiled helplessly. Just kidding, now their marine power is not as good as before, 5 elders become the second oldest star, the former Marine Admiral Sakazuki left Marine. Naval headquarters was bombarded into the sea. Nowadays, Su Yu and Shanks Whitebeard are allied in news reports. Who knows if they will unite to attack Marine? Now if they provoke another 4 emperors, then their situation will be very passive. Many Marines focused their attention on Major General Roll beside him. Major General Roar shook his head and spoke respectfully. Master Moss, the situation of our Marine is not optimistic now, when we were dispatched to protect you. I warned us that we must not provoke 4 emperors. But it's just a pariah. No one can stop me from getting that pet today. Moss Celestial Dragons took a sniffle and said viciously towards the many Marines. Then he turned to face the pirate on Su Yu's boat behind him. Untouchables, bring me that mermaid pet. He has a high self-esteem and doesn't pay attention to the numerous pirates. Is your mind pretending to be muddled? We met you here today and didn't do anything to you, asking you to give a price to buy mermaid slaves, and now let us send them to you. A pirate looked at Celestial Dragons with a sneer. They were originally members of the Four Emperors pirate group, and they were not so afraid of Marine. Now that the world government has been hit hard, how could they not know? Now it is naturally more fearless, but after all, the opponent is Celestial Dragons, giving them a little bit of face. Chapter 267. Ask them to pay for it, but through the conversation on the Marine ship just now. They knew that these Celestial Dragons did not have enough money to pay for this mermaid. So now the other party not only can't get the money, but they also let them take the initiative to send it. Joke. Now their Four Emperors pirate group is not afraid of world government at all. You can go to war at any time. You untouchables, don't you send me the mermaid pet soon. The Celestial Dragons Moss, seeing that the other party didn't have the intention of sending the mermaid, suddenly cursed. The gun in his hand was raised and pointed at the pirates on the boat. You fellow, don't think that we will be afraid of you because we are Celestial Dragons. Now, no one will be used to you in this sea. The pirate's face became gloomy. If the opponent dared to point the gun at them, it was tantamount to it was about to declare war. At this moment, a pirate next to him approached him and whispered. Master Ghost, the mermaid on this boat seems a bit weird. It stands to reason that they will be very scared if they are caught, but I see how she. The pirate, known as the Ghost Axe, turned and looked at the mermaid princess who was caught by the big net behind him. Ignore the celestial dragons behind him. Sure enough, she didn't seem to be worried at all, and she was looking up at them at this time. Because this net is large, the mermaid princess Baxing can stretch her body freely, but she can't escape. Boom, read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Just as he was thinking about what was going on with this mermaid. Suddenly a gunshot sounded, Celestial Dragon's Moss pulled the trigger on the gun, and the bullet flew towards the Ghost Axe at a very fast speed. When the bullet touched Ghost Axe's body, it was like hitting steel, and the dong bullet fell to the ground. There was a crisp sound. Boom, boom, boom. The Celestial Dragons continued to pull the trigger until all the bullets in the pistol were exhausted. Damn, it's untouchable. He threw the gun in his hand heavily on the ground, because he knew that the gun could not cause harm to the pirate at all. The impact of the bullet passed through Ghost Axe's clothing, but it couldn't penetrate his skin. I saw the area where the clothes on the back of Ghost Axe had been smashed, showing a black. Celestial Dragons, if it were before, I might have to bear it a little bit, but now, do you think I would still be afraid of you? Ghost Axe was enveloped in armament hockey, making him look like a person poured out of black copper. Find flowers. The whole body is full of strength. Hurry up and get rid of this untouchable. Celestial Dragon's Moss turned his head and looked at the marine behind him and ordered. Master Mo. There was dense cold sweat on the foreheads of those marines. I really didn't think that Celestial Dragons was really a hard fork. The other party didn't sell it to him, he shot directly, and now he asked them to take care of the other party. Come on, it's our responsibility to kill the pirates. The Major General sighed helplessly, knowing that today's battle is inevitable. He secretly decided that if he had a chance in the future, he would definitely not accept the task of escorting Celestial Dragons. Because these professed to be descendants of the Creator, it is too troublesome. He drew the sword from his waist, walked to the side of the boat. Although the Marines next to him were unwilling, they reluctantly pulled out the swords from their waists. Walked to the side of the boat. The battle is on the verge. Oh, I'm about to fight. 1. Chapter 268. Suddenly a voice came, attracting the attention of the group of pirates and marine. I saw a figure floating in the midair not far away. The man who made the sea feel terrified and the man who made marine talk about his fame, Su Yu, appeared. Su Yu. The pirate named Ghost Axe reacted first and took a breath. Su Yu's name in the sea is even bigger than their leader, the Four Emperors Kaido. And he also learned from some seniors that Su Yu and Kaido still have grudges. Now that I meet him, I don't know if the other party will do anything to them. When this idea appeared in his mind, he denied it. If there is no grievance, why did the other party kill him? Kaido has grievances with him, but it does not mean that he has grudges with Su Yu. Although he is a member of the Kaido Pirates, if his life is injured because of his name, he can quit at any time. Thinking of this, his originally nervous heart slowly calmed down. It's no wonder that Su Yu's name in the sea is too loud, as if this world is his stage alone. Su Yu, why are you here? The Major General said with a cold breath. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. I thought that the conflict with the Kaido pirates was already very unfortunate for them, Marine. Unexpectedly, another pirate appeared now. Moreover, he is a pirate with a rich statement in the sea, Su Yu, and more importantly, Su Yu repeatedly provokes their world government and has a deep hatred with their world government. Meeting him here now is likely to happen unexpectedly. Master Su Yu. While everyone was thinking about why Su Yu was here, the mermaid princess Baxing who was caught by the net waved to Su Yu in midair. She just listened to Su Yu's words, stay on the boat and don't run around, he will come back after he has a meal. That's why she didn't cry or make trouble on the boat, because she knew that Su Yu would definitely come back and would save her. What? This mermaid recognizes Su Yu, recognizes. A pirate standing on Su Yu's boat said in fear. If this mermaid is related to Su Yu, then they offended Su Yu by catching this mermaid. When thinking of this, the pirate felt hypoxia in his brain. Hurry up and release the mermaid. Master Su Yu, the brother underneath is ignorant, I hope you don't get angry. We will release him immediately. As a pirate who has been wandering in the sea for decades, Gui Axe reacted quickly. You dare to catch me, you are so brave. Su Yu stood in the air with a sneer. Kaido didn't dare to be presumptuous in front of him. The crew of Kaido pirates dared to do something to the people around him. Master Su Yu, I also just came to this boat, and I didn't know it was your boat. I didn't do all of this. His back was chilled at this time, and he could only shirk the responsibility to the other crew members. Hope to get a chance to survive. He originally thought that even if Su Yu came here, he would not have any problems. After all, the two sides did not have any hatred. But now it is different. This mermaid is related to Su Yu. Master Su Yu, when will we leave? Mermaid Princess Bai Xing was released by several pirates, and she waved to Su Yu who was standing in the air and asked. As if not worrying about his comfort at all. Chapter 269. Hey, why does that untouchable fly? I want him to be my slave. Celestial Dragon's Maw stared at Su Yu, then turned to the marine behind him and said. Upon hearing this, all marines took a breath, only feeling that they were not far from death. They are not ordinary people, but Su Yu, the pirate giant of the old age. Hey, didn't you hear what I said? Hurry up and knock down the flying slave. He yelled at the many Marines, because he saw that many Marines didn't move and didn't say anything, as if he hadn't heard his command. General. At this 12 o'clock, many Marines have some thoughts of wanting to beat him to death in a group. Just joking with the old-time pirate giant Su Yu, do they think they have a long life? Su Yu, our Marine doesn't want to do it with you. The Marine, withstood the fear in his heart, said to Su Yu in midair. Really, but I want to do it to you. Su Yu turned his head and looked at the many Marines on the boat with a sneer. He wanted to solve these pirates first. But he didn't expect celestial dragons on this ship, so he had to change his course first. Su Yu. The Marine still wanted to continue negotiations with Su Yu, but he blocked his words with actions. Purple Ghost Dragon, devour it. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. His complexion was calm, and a group of purple flames appeared in his palm, and the flame left his palm, and then condensed into a big dragon surrounded by purple flames. Flew to the Marine ship at a very fast speed. Quickly jump off the boat. The Marine Major General responded quickly and jumped off the boat. Boom. The dragon transformed by the purple flame swallowed the entire ship in an instant, and celestial dragons was not so lucky. Under the purple dragon flame, it turned into ashes. Even the marine ship burned quickly, turning to ashes within a short while, floating on the ocean. Because the temperature of Su Yu's purple dark fire is too high, even the ship that celestial dragons rides can burn to ashes. Master Su Yu. Gaiek saw the thunderous blow he showed, and swallowed unconsciously, his forehead was densely covered with sweat. Boom. Su Yu got off the boat from midair. Jump down. Su Yu looked at the many pirates on the boat and said. Jump down. Will you just let us go? He asked carefully, but noticed Lin Zheng's eyes, unconsciously swallowed, and quickly jumped into the sea. The other pirates jumped into the sea eagerly. They think they can be rescued by jumping into the sea. I knew that he was not a murderer. I didn't offend him. I can shirk the responsibility on other people to survive. Ghost Axe jumped into the 730C and looked at Su Yu on board with a secret smile. Su Yu was standing on the boat at this time and didn't do anything, as if he didn't have any idea of doing anything to him. But he doesn't know why Su Yu let go of all the pirates, but this is not his consideration. Swim away from here at a very fast speed. Boom. Suddenly the ocean seemed to be on fire, and a purple flame ignited on his body. The flame temperature was so fast that even if he turned on armament hockey, he couldn't stop the flame at all. How is it possible? He turned his head and looked at Su Yu on the boat. At this time, he was still standing on the boat. But the surrounding sea lit a purple flame. Chapter 270. Help, help. Several pirates swimming in the sea yelled in exclamation. A purple flame was lit in the sea and could not be extinguished, but in a moment, they burned to ashes. Su Yu. Before dying, Gui Axe looked at Su Yu on the boat with resentment in his eyes. He thought he could survive, but he didn't expect him to be so capable. As expected of Su Yu, the pirate giant of the old age. Although he has some strength, he can use armament hockey to contend a little bit, but at this moment he has been burned to ashes. And Su Yu, who was standing on the boat, looked at the scene of the sea and didn't say much about it. It's so dark. The mermaid princess Bai Xing was covering her eyes with vines, unable to see the scene of the sea. It wasn't until all the pirates died that he took back the vines that lingered in his eyes. You surprised me. I thought you would cry and make noise when they were caught. Su Yu looked at the white star beside him and said. According to the original book, he was a crying ghost 2 years later. When he met her in the sea for the first time, the tears from the corners of her eyes were still not dry. Now that she was caught by the pirate again, she didn't cry. If she was crying, I believe that even sea kings could be summoned. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Master Su Yu, don't you let me wait on the boat. Bai Xing said with a puffed face, watching Su Yu. It looks a little cute. She stayed on the boat because she obeyed Su Yu's words. Anyway, the pirates didn't take him away, and she also believed that Su Yu would come back to save her. All right. Su Yu nodded slightly, indeed a little surprised that she would say so listening to him, even if caught by a pirate with a net, she would not cry. Master Su Yu, can we return to Mermaid Island now? Bai Xing asked in a low voice. She knew that if she wanted to return to Mermaid Island, she could only rely on the man in front of her. The others are unreliable. I'm demon fruit power, and I need to find a boatman to coat it if I want to return to Mermaid Island. Su Yu frowned slightly and thought for a moment. He almost forgot that he was demon fruit power, and then he could be immune to 80% of the seawater, but the efficacy of that 20% of the seawater was enough to cause him to die on the way to the bottom of the sea for 10,000 meters. So he has to find a boatman to coat a layer of bubbles. If he goes to New World, he can go to Chambord Islands to find Rayleigh coating, but now he is in New World. If you want to coat, you can only find someone in New World. Did Master Su Yu found it? Bai Xing asked from the side, having been taken out of the palace for a long time. This made her very homesick, and his parents must be very worried about her at this time. Diaresis no. Su Yu shook his head slightly, because he traveled back and forth between New World and Chambord Islands and he had passed directly from the Holy Land Mary Geois above. So I forgot to cross the Mermaid Island, and I need to coat it. When Bai Xing heard this, his face suddenly puffed up. It looks very cute. Is there no other way? Bai Xing asked, She really wanted to go home too much. Zhao Hao, after all, she was still young, and she was full of a certain degree of fear for the outside world. Of course, Su Yu said with a smile on his mouth, he almost forgot. Since he can travel back and forth between the New World and the Chambord Islands, he can cross the Holy Land Mary Geoise directly, go to the Chambord Islands for coating, and then go to the bottom of the sea for 10,000 meters. As soon as he had this idea, Su Yu took action. Anyway, he had already eaten the meal and started to do business. Chapter 271. Really, Lord Su Yu. Although Bai Xing saw his ill-intentioned smile, it was a little strange, but he was still very happy that Su Yu had a way to help her go back. Of course, but don't forget, I didn't send you back for free. I need your treasure on Mermaid Island. Su Yu said slowly. He is not a saint and there is no need to help others for no reason. Even if it is Neptune White Star, so what? He didn't have any interest in this mermaid princess who could destroy the world. He just likes to be free. When he is bored, he just goes out to find something to do. I want you to send me back. I will definitely let my father give you a lot of treasures. Bai Xing 730 happily hugged Su Yu, as if as long as he could send himself back, treasures and the like didn't matter at all. Pay attention to the distance. Su Yu quickly broke free from her arms and flew into the air. The mermaid princess always wanted to hug him, so he could only fly in the air, in a position out of her reach. Now that he had decided what to do, Su Yu used his superpowers to float the ship and headed to the holy place of Mary Geoise, preparing to cross Mary Geoise again. You must know that he has traveled to and fro the Holy Land Mary Geoise several times when he came to this pirate world, each time he brought great damage to that area. But this time, the world government was hit hard and 5 elders became the second oldest star. Did not know why and did not intervene in his affairs. So he believed that this time crossing the Holy Land Mary Geoise would be very simple. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Su Yu's control of superpowers is already very superb. After drinking and eating, he drives the boat to fly very fast. Report. On the island where Su Yu docked the ship just now, a marine was in a hidden location on the island, watching Su Yu flying high in the sky. Holding the phone worm in his hand, he broadcasts towards the headquarters. Holy Land Mary Geoise, an office. What happened? A marine on the other side of the phone worm caught the phone worm and asked. Major General Moen, I met Su Yu's trail on Yamalu Island. The marine soldier asked and replied. Yamalu Island met Su Yu. Wait today, it seems that a celestial dragon's ship is about to arrive at Yamalu Island. Have they met? The Major General asked with a bit of breath. Already. Dead. The marine recruit responded, seeing clearly in the dark that a purple dragon swallowed the entire ship. What? The Major Marine's pupils shrank sharply, and he didn't expect the worst thing to happen. You continue to monitor him to see where he wants to go. On the opposite side of the phone worm, the Major General Marine frowned and then spoke. This incident has already happened and cannot be changed. The most important thing is to continue to monitor his whereabouts. Major General. His ship is flying. The Marine recruit thought of the vivid scene just now, and said with some trepidation. He is a Marine recruit. He was found when Su Yu came to this island, but he has been observing in secret. Even Su Yu started sinking the celestial dragon's ship, using his inexplicable ability to make the originally blue waters ignite purple flames. He saw it all. Now he actually flew again, completely frightening the Marine recruit. Flying. Where is he going? The Major General asked nervously when he heard this. Looking at the purpose of his flight, it should be to go to Red Earth University. The Marine hesitated and said. What? The Major General Marine's pupils shrank sharply, and he didn't expect to hear such news. Chapter 272. Su Yu's threat to their world government is too great, and he has crossed the Holy Land Mary Geoise several times. But the key is that they still have no choice but to take him. Now that I once again traveled to the location of the Red Earth continent, I would undoubtedly have to travel to the Holy Land Mary Geoise again. This is extremely bad news. The phone worm in the Marine recruit's eyes frowned at this moment, and his expression was very restless. Then Major General Marine hung up. He was sitting in an office in the Holy Land Mary Geoise, looking very nervous, and then made a phone call. Billy. On an island in the East China Sea, an old man with a hunk of 58.3 was playing with a group of children. Yes, he is the Marine hero, Garp. Now he has retired, and now comes to Windmill Town for retirement. Mr. Garp, there is your call. A woman walked out of the room and took out a phone worm. Garp was playing with the child, his face suddenly became serious when he heard the voice coming from behind him. Frightened the few children in front of him. Garp turned helplessly and walked to the woman, picking up the phone worm that was ringing nonstop. He has warned many Marines, except for major incidents, try not to disturb him. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Because of his battles over the years, a lot of physical problems have appeared. If the high-intensity battle continues, it may not be able to sustain it. It is precisely because of this that he retired and came to Donghai Windmill Town. Hey, this is Garp. Mr. Garp. On the opposite side of the phone worm, Major General Mo Wen's voice came. His speed was a bit nervous, and he knew that there must be something serious. Just talk about it. Garp sighed helplessly, knowing that the world government was about to have trouble again. Su Yu is driving the boat to the Red Earth continent at this time. It will not be long before he will reach the Holy Land Mary Geoise. The Marine Major General finished the sentence at a very fast speed, and then quietly listened to Garp's response. Su Yu. As soon as he heard the name, Garp frowned. Even as a marine hero, he is not so afraid of four emperors, but he can have an instinct when facing Su Yu. Sense of fear. Because his strength is too strong. Makes him a little afraid. Find flowers. Mr. Garp, can you rush to the Holy Land Mary Geois now? The Major Marine saw that Garp didn't answer much, and then asked aloud. He thinks that Garp, after all, is a marine hero fighting against the giants of the old age, so there must be a way to deal with Su Yu. No, I'm too far away to make it, but, although I don't know what Su Yu's purpose is, you try not to stop him and let him cross the Holy Land Mary Geois. So you won't have any loss. Yes. Garp thought for a moment and then said. ... 0. Now he is in Donghai Windmill Town, and it is impossible for him to reach the Holy Land Mary Geois in a short time. But he has fought with Su Yu for many years, and he also understands his character. He is not a murderer. The so-called crossing of the Holy Land Mary Geois is just to return to the Chambordian Islands, and I don't want to pass 10,000 meters under the sea. The Major General Marine sitting in the Holy Land Mary Geois sat in his office without speaking for a long time. Then hung up the phone. Don't stop. Let him pass through the Holy Land Mary Geois. How could it be possible? If we let him pass through safely, where will we put the face of Marine? 1. Chapter 273. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. New world, below the Red Earth continent. Back to a familiar place again. Su Yu looked at the endless wall in front of him and said. If you want to go to the bottom of the sea for 10,000 meters, you need to find someone to coat in New World, but he found it troublesome, so he simply crossed the Holy Land Mary Geois. Back to the Chambord Islands, and then found Rayleigh, let him coat, and then returned to the Mermaid Island 10,000 meters under the sea. This city wall is so high. The white star on the side looked at the endless red wall above his head and said. Is this the Holy Land Mary Geois? I heard my father said that the descendants of God live above the Red Earth continent. Celestial dragons. Bai Xing was young and almost stayed in the castle, and his father refused to let her leave. But I was afraid that she would be bored, so I told him some stories. There is a story about the Holy Land Mary Geois. It is said that those people are descendants of gods, living above the Red Earth continent, and their status is extremely noble. Unexpectedly, you can see the Red Earth continent with your own eyes now, and you will be able to see the legendary celestial dragons soon. The descendants of the shit god are nothing more than a place where a bunch of waste lives. Looking at the Red Earth continent above his head, Su Yu responded nonchalantly. After that, he did not stop and used his superpowers to make the ship fly, and then began to slowly lift off to the holy place Mary Geois. In the Holy Land Mary Geois, countless troops assemble urgently. Many powerful newcomers recruited by the world's conscripts live here. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Now that they heard the emergency assembly, they rushed outside. Su Yu, the pirate giant of the old age, will come here soon. As long as you don't retain any strength, you must win it. In the Holy Land Mary Geois, a Marine Lieutenant General said loudly. There is a huge square here, with many powerful newcomers from the world government. Because the pirates have been rampant in recent years, the protection of the Holy Land Mary Geois has been strengthened. The many Marine newcomers standing on the square were nervous. They had already heard of the reputation of Su Yu, a pirate giant. At the thought of fighting him for a while, many Marines were scared for a while, and many Marines were retreating at this time. It's not to blame him. Who is not afraid of Su Yu in this sea area now? Lord General, let's just let him go. I think he just wants to take a shortcut back to the Chambord Islands. It might as well. A new Marine swallowed, and then spoke, but he hadn't spoken yet. After that, I was interrupted by a sound. Boom. Standing in front of them, Lieutenant General Marine took up the gun from his waist without hesitation, and shot the new Marine who was talking. A shot hit the head, and the Marine rookie fell to the ground before he could react. Completely gone. Other Marine newcomers were afraid of seeing this scene for a while. Many people regretted why they wanted to be Marine. Now Marine is a high-risk profession. Although Marine's reward is very generous 3.6, but now if they face Su Yu, the pirate giant of the old era, they would rather not have this reward. Many Marines who wanted to be deserters suddenly felt cold at this time. They just said a few words and were shot. If this is to escape. We are Marine. How can we tolerate the existence of the pirate and let him pass safely? Where does our Marine face? Chapter 274. Marine Lieutenant General asked a series of questions to many newcomers on the field. The Marine recruits on the scene all stared at the cliff in front of them nervously. Many Marines were sweating on their foreheads, because Su Yu would come up after a while. They wanted to leave, but they also knew that they couldn't do without, because besides the original Admiral Akainu, the Ghost Spider Lieutenant who represented Marine's absolute justice. Everyone saw it just now. A Marine only made a comment, but he was killed by 12 without hesitation with a headshot. These recruits have never seen such a scene. If they want to go, they can't go, but if they fight, they have almost no chance of winning. Because the pirate who was about to board the Holy Land Mary Geois, but Su Yu, the pirate giant of the old age. This legendary pirate, even if they weren't Marine, has heard of it. 2 times through the Holy Land Mary Geois, 5 elders couldn't help him. 5 elders are now 2 veterans. Although Mary Geoise has gathered many marine recruits, there are only about 4 lieutenants guarding here today. Many marines know that there is no chance of winning. We have got the information. Today, the only person who wants to break into the Holy Land Mary Geoise is Suyu from the Super Dimension Pirate Group, plus a mermaid. If there is a battle, you people will get on the ship and hijack the mermaid. Threatening Suyu, the ghost spider pointed to a few good recruits and said, read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. He also knew that even though Suyu was the only one who went to the Holy Land Mary Geoise this time, their chances of winning were not great, and the best way was to hijack the mermaid. Since the mermaid is on Suyu's boat, there must be a little relationship between the two. Lord General, we are Marine, how can we do such a thing? A Marine recruit retorted. He joined Marine because Marine represents justice. Isn't this lieutenant's approach now inconsistent with the pirates? Vulgar and rotten. Catch others to threaten. Bang. The ghost spider did not hesitate at all, squeezing the trigger of the gun in his hand, and a sound passed by, and the Marine recruit fell to the ground. Being hit in the head by a gun completely lost his life, even the most advanced doctor in the world could not save him at all. You have to remember, as long as you can catch the mermaid and threaten Suyu, this battle will be our victory. The ghost spider yelled at the many recruits on the square. Although he has not played against Suyu as a lieutenant general, he heard a group of Marine seniors mentioned about Suyu. He is a person who values the crew very much, although the crew on his ship do not know where they come from. But Suyu attaches great importance to these 733 crew members. It's almost treated like a relative. He guessed that the mermaid might be his new crew member, so that he could take advantage of Suyu's emotional weakness to coerce and defeat the mermaid. Now, we're ready to fight. As long as there is a ship out there, we will shoot without hesitation. Ghost Spider said again to the many Marine recruits. Then with a wave of his hand, several Marines walked over, took away the dead Marine recruits' bodies, and wiped the bloodline dry. Everything seems to have never happened before. However, today's event has made many Marine recruits unforgettable for life. Many people decided that as long as they can survive this time, they will definitely not be Marine in the future. Chapter 275. At this time, Suyu didn't know the Holy Land Mary Geoise. The people in Mary Geoise already knew his trail. At this time, he was using superpowers to maneuver the ship to fly up. He looked up at the top of his head and found that he was about to arrive. Then he turned his head and solemnly opened his mouth to the Bai Xing behind him. There may be a fight later, you hide in the cabin now. Although this white star can summon the huge sea kings as soon as the Neptune cries, the Holy Land Mary Geoise is at the top of the Red Earth continent. No matter how big the sea kings are, they can't do without water, let alone board the Holy Land Mary Geoise. So she can say that it has no effect now, let her hide in the cabin first. When it is resolved, Marine will take her away. Although he didn't know that there were already countless Marines waiting for him, he knew that it was impossible to cross the Holy Land Mary Geoise safely. Why? Bai Xing raised her small face, a little reluctant. She now wants to see the celestial dragons in the story to her from her father. Don't talk nonsense, go in. Suyu frowned as he saw that the boat was about to reach the top. I see. Bai Xing pursed his mouth very reluctantly, but in the end he obeyed his advice and hid in the cabin. Shooting. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Just when Suyu's ship arrived at the Holy Land Mary Geoise, it heard a man's order, and then countless bullets shot at him. The air is densely packed with bullets, and many Marine soldiers can use armament hockey. Make bullets more lethal. But all this is not worth mentioning in front of Suyu. Seeing that countless densely packed bullets fell in front of Suyu's boat, he could no longer move forward, and those bullets were still surrounded by blue light. It doesn't work. I know. He is not something we can contend with. A Marine recruit saw countless bullets stagnating in front of Suyu's boat, swallowed unconsciously, and wanted to leave in his heart. Plan. Return it to you. Suyu manipulated his superpowers to return all the bullets that came from the attack. Countless bullets circled the blue light and fired at the group of Marines again. What? Numerous screams sounded, and many Marines fell to the ground, and the ground was full of blood flowing out. It looks bright red, very scary. Only a few Marine recruits used armament hockey to barely resist the numerous bullets. But the body still suffered a lot of injuries. Quote. Diaresis Suyu. Suddenly a voice came into his ears, and when he looked down, he saw Lieutenant General Marine Ghost Spider. In the original book, he is considered a person who is accustomed to justice, but like Akainu, their justice is a bit extreme. Why, Mary Geoise, your holy land, is the only one of your lieutenant generals guarding. 5 elders. Why don't the 2 old stars come out? Suyu looked at the ghost spider not far below and mocked Zhao Hao Hao. Suyu, you have repeatedly challenged our Marine's bottom line, and I will leave you here today. The ghost spider had a gloomy face. Looking at Suyu floating in the air, he said coldly. A mere lieutenant general, you can't, even your 3-army commander Gangbone Kong is not enough to see in front of me. Suyu saw a small lieutenant general speaking to him unconsciously and laughed unconsciously. Do you dare to fight with me? Ghost Spider asked back. Chapter 276. Fight with you. Suyu laughed out loud when he heard the ghost spider's words. It's been a while since they showed their hands in front of Marine, they thought Suyu was old. Now it is necessary for this mere lieutenant to realize the power and cruelty of the pirate. Don't you dare. Ghost Spider sneered. Suyu's face was gloomy, and his palms were intertwined with thunder and lightning. Although he didn't know why the other party angered him, it was obvious that he succeeded. Lin Jung is already a little angry now, being taunted by a mere lieutenant. How could he, as the only surviving pirate giant in the old age, tolerate such contempt as 733? At this time, he had mastered the power of devil fruits, thunder and lightning, reaching the level of Thor. Swish! A small lightning flashed across his palms. Although the lightning was very small, his power was extremely powerful. If hit in the head, the ghost spider will die on the spot. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Are you deceiving me that I can't fly? The ghost spider dodged the blitz with difficulty, but it was so around, and a little black smoke appeared on his shoulder, and was passed by the lightning. If his observation hockey were a little weaker, he would have died in the situation just now. Su Yu looked at him calmly and coldly. Then two lieutenants dared to come not far away, and several major generals were looking at Su Yu in the air with a serious face. Lieutenant Marine was not enough in his Su Yu eyes, let alone those Marine recruits, even Marine who survived countless bullets at this time. At this time, they didn't dare to attack Su Yu at all, because they knew it was useless and the bullet would bounce back. I don't want to cause innocent killings today, but a small lieutenant dared to taunt me time and time again. It seems that I have to play with you a little bit. Su Yu looked at many Marines coldly. Dow. Then he controlled the ship and landed on the ground. With a calm face, he approached those Marine major generals and lieutenant generals step by step. Why don't you continue talking? I'm down now. You've shot at me. Su Yu looked at the ghost spider and said coldly. However, there was a smile on the corner of the ghost spider's mouth at this time, which seemed to be a triumphant smile. Su Yu. A shout suddenly came from behind him. He turned his head and saw that several Marines had boarded his boat and held the mermaid Princess Baxing. Unexpectedly, Su Yu, I won this war. The ghost spider looked at Su Yu, who was serious in front of him, and couldn't help but laugh. Although there was no one on board when Su Yu controlled the ship, he knew that it was a mermaid hiding on the ship. When Marine fired, he ordered some powerful and special Marines to crouch around his ship secretly, and as long as the ship got off, he would board the ship and hijack the mermaid. It's interesting, I didn't even find you. Su Yu looked at the Marines behind him and said calmly. Su Yu. Unexpectedly, Qiangxi is the hidden demon fruit power, known as the non-breathing man. Unless it is a top-notch visualizer who predicts his whereabouts in advance, he can't be found at all. Although the ghost spider was struck by lightning, it hit the shoulder, but at this time he was smiling triumphantly. It also explained the devil fruit ability of the Marine recruit for Su Yu. Chapter 277. Brontosaurus. A strong thunder and lightning intertwined in Su Yu's hands, flashing blue electric sparks from time to time, and then the thunder and lightning in the palm flew out of his palm, constantly growing in the air. Then a huge blue thunder dragon formed, rushing towards the ghost spiders and the Marines beside him with the force of destruction. What? After hearing a few screams, the Marines were scorched all over, and fell straight to the ground in the black smoke, completely out of life. Master Su Yu. At this time, the white star on the boat couldn't help but shed tears and shouted at Su Yu. She also didn't expect that she could be found out by hiding in the cabin. Originally, she wanted to stop crying, for fear that Su Yu would dislike her and say she was a crying ghost, but she was hijacked by a few strangers. It reminded her of the memory of playing in the Mermaid Castle a few days ago and being captured by Capri and other pirates. She couldn't help crying, and then yelled Su Yu's name. You really have the courage. You want to threaten me? Su Yu sneered, looking at the bodies of Marine that had been blackened by electricity behind him. Did you send her away by yourself, end your life, or let me come? Su Yu turned his head, calmly approaching the boat step by step, neither slow nor fast. But in the eyes of the group of Marines who hijacked the White Star, this is precisely the most terrifying, the sound of footsteps. As if stepping on their hearts. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. It made them very uncomfortable, as if they couldn't breathe. You, don't come over. If you dare to come over, I'll kill him. A Marine recruit put a sword on Bai Xing's neck out of fear and swallowed. At this moment, his forehead was lowered with cold sweat, and his sword hand was trembling slightly. Because Su Yu's pressure on them is as terrible as the devil. Master Su Yu. Bai Xing cried and rubbed his eyes. I can't stand it anymore, we are Marine. Why do you want to do such a thing? Another Marine recruit looked at Su Yu approaching step by step, and listened to the mermaid beside him crying. The last line of defense collapsed. He also knew that he couldn't survive at all. Su Yu turned into a thunder and lightning, boarded the boat at a very fast speed, and then came to the front of the Marines. His eyes were as dark as the abyss. Find flowers. There is no trace of emotion. Boom. The Marine, who was holding the sword on the neck of Bai Xing, saw Su Yu suddenly boarding the ship, shaking all over with fright, and the sword fell on the ground. It didn't hurt Bai Xing. Puff. One Marine hurriedly knelt on the ground, his whole body trembling, and several other Marines knelt on the ground trembling when they saw it. For the sake of your non-resistance at the end, I will let you die happy. Su Yu looked at the several pirates who were kneeling on the ground and said coldly. The Marines who were kneeling on the ground heard his words and unconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. Thunder and lightning intertwined in the palms, turning into tiny needle-like lightning strikes, striking into their minds, and understanding their lives in an instant. Let them not have a trace of pain. Even the screams were too late to make a sound. They died completely. Several Marines had been killed by him, and then their bodies were thrown out of the ship. In the square, Countless Marines, most of them died, and many major generals who had seen the Lieutenant General had died, and they had already left at this time. Million. Chapter 278. The large sacred place Mary Geoise's square. There are many Marines lying at this time, and no Marine can stand up at this time. It's really troublesome. If you obediently make way for me, it won't be so troublesome. Su Yu looked at these Marines lying on the ground and shook his head. Sir Su Yu. Bai Xing cried and hugged him into his arms, and held him tightly, which proved that she was really frightened. Su Yu struggled to break free and floated in midair. Just as Su Yu wanted to say that he should go, he suddenly felt a shock in the Holy Land Mary Geoise. Although this tremor is so small that normal people can't detect it, it can be sensed by Su Yu's experience. Mary Geoise, the holy place at this time, will vibrate slightly every few seconds. Can anyone shake the entire Red Earth continent? Su Yu frowned slightly and asked. Then he floated on the top of the Red Earth continent and looked towards the bottom. I want to know who is shaking this Red Earth continent, but the Red Earth continent is very high. After all, it is the highest mountain that divides this pirate world into two halves. What's wrong, Lord Su Yu? Bai Xing wiped his tears and looked at Su Yu floating on the top of the Red Earth continent. Disappeared. Su Yu saw and heard the color turned on and felt the slight shaking of the ground, but at this time it was gone. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. As expected of Sea King. Su Yu turned his head to look at Bai Xing and sighed, then spoke. He had almost guessed that something shook the entire Red Earth continent. That was the huge Sea Kings. The cries of the White Star attracted those extremely huge Sea Kings, but when she stopped crying, those Sea Kings could feel it. So it stopped attacking this Red Earth continent. Su Yu doesn't know how many kilometers long Sea Kings are under the Red Earth continent at this time, but there are definitely not a few. Otherwise, how could it slightly shake the entire Red Earth continent? As expected of the Sea King with the ability to destroy the world. Ah, Lord Su Yu, what are you talking about? Bai Xing asked in a puzzled manner, not knowing what he meant. Forget it, the danger has been lifted, and now I cross the Holy Land Mary Geoise and head to the Chambord Islands. He didn't explain much, using superpowers to drive the boat out of here. Should he leave like this? In the secret of Mary Geoise, an old man clenched his fist secretly and made a crisp sound, which proved that he was very angry now. Although he is only one person, we can't stop him. Another old man said helplessly. Yes, these two elders are 5 elders, but at this time they should be called the 2 elders, and the other 3 have been killed by Aizen. Damn it, let a pirate be so embarrassed. The old man stared in the direction Su Yu was leaving, his eyes seemed to breathe fire. Forget it, Lord Yim has already said that he won't live long, and sooner or later will let him dissipate in the long river of time. Another old man said slightly 3.6, but there was a sneer on the corner of his mouth. I hope so. The old man sighed, and then the 2 left. And because no one stopped, Su Yu crossed the Holy Land Mary Geoise very smoothly. Originally, he wanted to get some treasure in the castle of celestial dragons. But Mary Geoise, the holy place today, is too quiet, making him a little uneasy. Just want to leave quickly. Chapter 279. The Holy Land Mary Geoise is opposite the Chambord Islands. Su Yu's purpose is the Chambord Islands. Because he needs to find a boatman, Rayleigh, to put a rubber film on his ferry so that he can let the boat sail in the sea. In this way, the Fishmen Island can be reached safely. I don't know who the 12th crew member will be. Su Yu opened his mouth while dragging his chin. At this time, he used superpowers to float in the air, maneuvering the ship, and slowly descending. It is about to land on the Chambord Islands. Master Su Yu is 12, Bai Xing said, lying on the rail. It's about to land now, and the ship is just about to reach the top of the red soil continent. Why don't you climb on the pole to see it? Su Yu stood in the air and responded lightly. I don't know that this red soil continent is tens of thousands of meters high. It was called Gao at that time. Now there are a few hundred meters left to land. Forget. She puffed her mouth and looked at Su Yu. It was not because she had forgotten, but because she only wanted to see celestial dragons at that time. Because she often mentioned them in the stories of her father. But when the ship was about to reach the top, Su Yu let her hide in the cabin again. She naturally couldn't appreciate the height of tens of thousands of meters. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Finally here, Su Yu controlled the boat and landed slowly. At this time, they finally reached the Chambord Islands, where there were very many people. There are many pirates here, and it is one of the emperors of the underground world, Don Quixote, a business controlled by Doflamingo. At this time, Doflamingo has not been defeated by Luffy, so he is still one of the emperors. Go to Rayleigh first. Su Yu dragged his chin with his hand, not wanting to waste time on this island, first went to Rayleigh for coding. Going to Mermaid Island was his first task. Yes, it's Su Yu. Quite a few pirates recognized Su Yu on the way. After all, his reward order is well known throughout the sea. As long as it is a pirate, no one has ever seen Su Yu's reward order and the amount of the reward. Because he is the only surviving giant of the old age standing on top of the pirates today. Whether it is strength or influence, he can stand firm in this position. Hang, Su Yu, who is offering a reward of 5 billion Baileys, for, why something is here. A pirate stammered and said. Master Su Yu, I want to follow you. Please let me get on your boat. A pirate shouted at Su Yu's feet. I don't look at how many pounds I have, I want to follow Master Su Yu. A pirate mocked. Now Su Yu is standing on top of their pirates. Countless people regard him as an idol, and some people want to join the Super Dimension Pirate Group, which is normal. It turned out to be the Mikoto 737 with a bounty of 100 million Baileys. You are far from qualified to board Master Suyu's boat. When another pirate saw this, he looked at Mikoto with a big sword in his eyes full. It's a mockery. Carmen, why do you want to find something here? The man called Mikoto looked at him with a grim look. Already know that I want to find something, and still stand still, are you scared? Carmen sarcastically said mercilessly. It seems that it is necessary to resolve the contradiction between us today. I will kill you, Mikoto said with a gloomy face. Then a healthy walk rushed up. Using armament hockey, he fought with Carmen in the Chambord Islands. Chapter 280. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Master Suyu, there are a lot of people gathered below. The white star on the boat leaned on the rail and said. The flow of people in the Chambord Islands is already large, and now many pirates know that Suyu is here, and many people come out and want to see him. Because of the existence of Suyu, it is hard to see it compared to 4 emperors. This kind of existence should have been in the other half of the Grand Line, New World, but now it suddenly appeared in the Chambord Islands for some reason. Many people followed Suyu's boat, wanting to know what he wanted to do. It's really troublesome to be famous. Suyu looked at the dense silhouettes under his feet and said, almost everyone admired him and followed him under his boat. Many pirates claimed to want to join the super-dimensional pirate group, and some even fought because of this. Just like Mikoto and Carmen just now, Suyu flew the ship high into the sky, far away from people's sight, and then flew in the air in the direction of Rayleigh. He didn't expect that there are so many people admiring him in the Chambord Islands. It's no wonder that, after all, the pirates' top powerhouse, both in strength and influence, are deservedly ranked first. It has a higher status than the 4 emperors of New World. This is Suyu. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Finally arrived, Suyu flew in the air for a while before reaching the area where Rayleigh lived. Then he took control of the ship and let the ship land slowly and landed in the surrounding waters. Fortunately, no one around noticed them. Remember, stay on the boat. If you dare to leave, I don't care if you lose it. Suyu said to Bai Xing. Then he left for Rayleigh's wooden house. I know Mr. Suyu. Bai Xing lay on the boat rail and waved to Suyu. Then he puffed his mouth, a little dissatisfied, because Suyu left her on the boat again. Squeak. Suyu walked to a tavern and gently opened the door. At this time, a woman was wiping a wine container. It's closed, the woman said without looking up. Continue to wipe the objects in hand. It's daytime now, is it closing so early, Shachi? Suyu walked straight to the front desk, and then took a seat. Sorry for the wine, Suyu. She raised her head before she finished speaking, but was shocked by the cheek of the person in front of her. Because the one standing in front of him is not an ordinary person, but the pirate giant Suyu Song of the old age. Aren't you in New World? Why are you here? Shachi asked out, and then handed Suyu a few bottles of fine wine. The reason she said it was closed is because the ordinary wine in her shop has been sold out, and now only the very expensive wine is left. But these wines are not intended to be sold, they are only used to treat distinguished guests. I'm bored in idle time and come back and go around. Suyu opened a bottle of good wine, gulped, and wiped the froth from the corner of his mouth. This wine tastes really good, but I don't have any money, Zhao Hao Zhao, pay the bill. Suyu is very short of money now, so he would be willing to sit in trouble and send the mermaid princess Baxing back to the Fishmen Island. Then he can get the treasure on the Fishmen Island. Of course you don't have to pay the bill. This drink is free for you. Shachi lighted a cigarette and said. Worthy of being the guy who stayed with Rayleigh, the deputy captain of One Piece all year round. Even when I met Suyu, I was just shocked, nothing else. Chapter 281. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Then what's your purpose here? Suyu. Shachi spit out a cigarette while asking. She knew that it was impossible for someone like Suyu to return to the Chambord Islands for no reason. There must be something important. It's okay. I came here today to find Rayleigh. Suyu took a sip of his drink and said. Looking for Rayleigh. What can I do for him? Shachi continued to ask. Let him coat my boat with rubber film. A character like you should be able to cross the Holy Land Mary Geoise anytime and anywhere. Why do you want to come back from New World to find Rayleigh coating and return to New World with 740? Shachi really doesn't understand Suyu. Ideas. Anyone who has seen the news reports knows that Suyu broke into the Holy Land Mary Geoise twice and successfully escaped. Even the world government has nothing to do with him. I'm not going to New World, I'm going to the Fishmen Island. Suyu shook his head slightly and said. He can go to New World if he wants, just across the Holy Land Mary Geoise. But the Fishmen Island can't. If there is no rubber membrane, he will not be able to reach it, because he is only immune to 80% of the seawater. However, this time calling the 12th crew member may have to evolve to become 100% immune to seawater. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. So, wait, how did you come from New World? Suddenly Shachi seemed to think of something, with a smile on her mouth and continued, you crossed the Holy Land Mary Geoise again. There is nothing wrong with Shachi knowing that Su Yu must have crossed the Holy Land Mary Geois to arrive here. In this way, Su Yu has crossed the holy place Mary Geois 3 times in total, using this place as a back garden. Enter as you want, and leave as you want. In the entire sea area, only Su Yu can do it. No way, I can't go directly to the Fishman Island from New World. Su Yu shook his head helplessly and said, it is too troublesome to find a boatman for coating in New World. Why not return to the Chambord Islands and look for Rayleigh coating? Rayleigh is now at the auction house. If you want to go find him, but he should be back soon. Shachi took a cigarette and said. Go and sell yourself again. Su Yu took a sip of wine and smiled faintly. Rayleigh, this guy likes to gamble, as long as he has no money, he will sell himself. The subsequent robbing of the buyer's money is truly superb. Forget it, you will go to the auction house if you are bored. Su Yu drank the wine in the glass in one sip, wiped the froth from the corner of his mouth, and then stood up and left the tavern. The Chambord Islands are a mixture of merman and fish, and there are all kinds of people, including celestial dragons with high self-esteem, vicious pirates, and some criminals who abduct adults. Even Marine is reluctant to take care of this island, because the entire Chambordian archipelago is too big, with dozens of islands. Even Marine can't fully manage it. At this time, Su Yu was heading to the auction house in the Chambord Islands. In order to save trouble, he intercepted a pirate halfway and took his clothes off. Putting a hat on his head, and then pulling up the chain of his clothes, no one would recognize him at this time. If it is recognized by others, it must be troublesome. He is naturally a person who is very afraid of trouble, and naturally he will not deliberately cause trouble. Chapter 282. Secure Asset Portal, your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. There are many auction houses in the Chambord Islands, but before leaving, Shachi also told Su Yu Rayleigh the exact location of the auction house. So in less than a moment, Su Yu came to the place where Rayleigh was auctioned. Squeak. Su Yu gently pushed open the door of the auction place and walked straight in. There are many people here, a mixture of fish and dragons, ordinary citizens, celestial dragons, and pirates. They all sit in their seats and admire the products being auctioned on the stage. Su Yu also found a place to sit down, and then looked at what was being auctioned on the auction floor. Or it's a woman. Everyone, this is the original princess from the Yushikaya kingdom, but the country has been destroyed, but she was also the daughter of the kingdom. She is proficient in everything, and she has a very good body. The starting price is 5 million Baileys. On the stage in front of them, a commentator held an iron chain in his hand, and a circle-like iron ring was tied around the woman's neck, making her unable to leave. At this time, her face was like life and death. After all, she was once the daughter of the kingdom, with endless glory and wealth, but because she couldn't hand in enough heavenly gold. They were removed from the world government, and their country was also attacked by a group of pirates armed with sophisticated weapons. And the leader of those people is Doflamingo. And she was even sold here. 10 million. A pirate's pupils lighted up. With a smile on his face, he held up a sign. But before he could laugh long, another voice came. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. 15 million. 30 million. 35 million. The sound of the auction is endless, and from time to time, someone raises the price and wants to buy the daughter of the kingdom. After all, women with this status are very rare. And the woman on the stage heard the continuous raising of prices on the stage, lowered her head and said nothing. She was completely disappointed and numb to the world. 300 million. Suddenly a sound rang and the whole auction house was silent. They were all shocked by the sudden high price. Even Su Yu became interested and looked at the man who raised the price not far away. Sao Paulo, you are buying useless things again. The fat woman sitting beside her said. However, she is different from the people around him, wearing a helmet like a fish tank on his head, which is incompatible with the people around. Find flowers. Yes, they are celestial dragons. Mom, I'm tired of playing with those slaves, it's time to change one. The celestial dragon sniffed, and then spoke. 300 million once. 300 million twice. Congratulations, you have obtained the daughter of this ruined kingdom. I believe she will satisfy you, Lord Celestial Dragons. There was a smile on the face of the man standing on the stage to explain. ... 0. He also didn't expect Celestial Dragons to be so willing to spend money, even spending 300 million to buy a slave. It's really generous. Then the woman was brought to Celestial Dragons by the chain backstage. Everyone, our people found a different species on a boat in the port today, and this species is very rare. The commentator standing on the stage said loudly, and he was about to be the one on stage. Everyone presented a major surprise. After a while, someone pushed a huge fish tank to show people a mermaid. Everyone, we found this mermaid in the sea. When we met her, she wanted to hide in the cabin, but we still found it, and we destroyed the ship. Million. Chapter 283. The man standing on the stage said loudly with a microphone in hand. Emotional, because she believes that this mermaid can be sold at a good price. Master Su Yu, the mermaid who was trapped in the fish tank, spoke softly, staring at the surroundings with an expression that only he could hear, and tears were about to fall. But he still held it back. Hey. Seeing the mermaid trapped in the fish tank, Su Yu stood up and walked towards the stage step by step. His complexion was gloomy. 600 million. Celestial Dragons Sao Paulo, who was sitting on the battlefield, held up the sign and shouted that he valued the mermaid in the fish tank at a glance. There was a slight smile on his face. Because that mermaid happened to be the type he liked, and he hadn't bought a mermaid pet for a long time. Sao Paulo, haven't you already bought a pet? The pet that the fat celestial dragon said was the princess of the kingdom of perishing that had just been bought. At this time the princess was pulled by a chain by Saint Paul, and she knelt on the ground. With her head down and without a word, her heart would have died the moment the pirate arrived. As celestial dragons, they are not bad for money, but they can't buy everything, because many of the things they bought are not used. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Mom. Sao Paulo was about to say something, but suddenly he felt a gaze watching him beside him. When he turned his head, he noticed Suyu beside him. Untouchable, what do you want to do? Sao Paulo took out the gun he wore around his waist and pointed to Suyu. Sao Paulo, just leave this to the subordinates to do. Killing untouchables will only spill their blood on us. The fat woman sitting next to her glanced at Suyu and then said. The guards in armor standing beside them hurried forward. You dare to offend the noble celestial dragons. A guard wearing silver armor rushed towards Suyu. Squeak. What? But when the two guards were about to approach Suyu, they fell to the ground, sparks flashing on their bodies, and their silver armor turned black. Boom. Suyu stepped on the head of the guard, looking sullenly at celestial dragon Sao Paulo. You are a pariah. Sao Paulo saw that the guards didn't work, so he pulled the trigger. Boom, boom, boom. He fired 3 shots in a row, but the bullet disappeared before it got close to Suyu. It seems to have evaporated out of thin air. This is the power of Zimingwo. Has a very high temperature. Swish. Thunder and lightning intertwined in Suyu's palm, and a small long dragon pierced through celestial dragon's head and flew straight to the fat woman sitting beside him. Without even the screams, the 2 celestial dragons died lying on the chair. There was blood falling down on their foreheads. What? He dared to kill celestial dragons 3.6. Don't he know that this will attract Marine Admiral? A pirate immediately stood up and faced Su, who dared to kill celestial dragons. You called the lunatic and left immediately. Although Marine has been hit hard now and its power is not as good as before, if celestial dragons die in a place like Chambord, even if they don't come to Marine Admiral. It is also the level of the alternate admiral, which is not something they can contend. Chapter 284. In less than a moment, there were only a few people left in the huge auction floor, and all the people who stayed here were vicious pirates. At this moment, they smiled and wanted to know what Suyu would do. Boy, do you know what you are doing? If you openly kill celestial dragons like this, you will also harm us. The commentator standing on the stage shouted loudly. Originally, celestial dragons shouted a price of 600 million yuan, which made him speechless, but unexpectedly, he was killed by the inexplicable man in front of him. This means that they cannot get the money. This 12 made him extremely angry. This kid, how come you have some acquaintance with the kid with a straw hat before? The pirates sitting in the audience were smiling and looking at Suyu, who was not far away. After all, they are powerful pirates who have survived countless lives and deaths. I was not surprised by the sight in front of me. Anyway, Marine Admiral is here, they can't run away. So they didn't panic at all. You mean, that Luffy from the Straw Hat Pirate group? The other pirate said with his arms folded. A few months ago, a pirate also took action on celestial dragons. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. The pirate was Luffy, but he didn't kill celestial dragons, he just punched him. But the man in front of him was obviously more crazy, and he killed celestial dragons directly. Master Suyu. The mermaid princess Baxing on the stage watched Suyu for a long time, because at this time Suyu was fully armed and his face wrapped tightly, and no one else could tell it was him. However, Bai Xing felt that the man not far away was a little familiar, and then thought of Suyu who had sent him home, so he spoke unconsciously. You can recognize me like this. Does a mermaid have such a supernatural power? Suyu took off his face and appeared in front of everyone. It's really you, Lord Suyu. Bai Xing saw that it was Suyu he was really familiar with, shouting excitedly. Tears are about to flow out. Suyu. The commentator standing on the stage was still angry before, but now only panic is left. He backed back again and again, dripping cold sweat on his forehead. As Doflamingo's subordinate, how could he not know the legendary big pirate who famous throughout the sea, Suyu, the pirate giant of the old era? What? He is Suyu. At this time, everyone in the auditorium was also a little shocked. The man with his arms around his chest looked a little unnatural. Cold sweat fell on his forehead, and he took a deep breath. Secretly sighed, Xin Hao didn't taunt Suyu, otherwise they wouldn't know how they died. When everyone in the auditorium learned that the killer of celestial dragons was Suyu, they all left here in small steps and unobtrusively. For fear of being implicated in Suyu's battle. Suyu 743, why are you here? The man standing on the stage was already incoherently scared. There is endless fear in my heart. Why am I here? Do I still need to report to you? Suyu said calmly. But in the ears of that man, it was like the sound of the devil, leaving his brain blank. Zimingwo. Suyu appeared in the palm of a burning world, a flame of extremely high temperature, and then hit the man with the flame with his fingers. What? The purple flame burned on him and quickly swallowed it. Chapter 285. Secure Asset Portal. Your trusted source for secure and informative digital assets. Register with your real phone number and get bonus just for registering. Try for free. Master Su Yu. Bai Xing was locked in the huge fish tank, and tears burst into his eyes when he saw Su Yu coming. Bang! Su Yu walked to the fish tank and waved his arm lightly, and the fish tank shattered. Then he walked up to the white star and used armament hockey to take out the circle iron ring. Boom! The iron ring left Bai Xing's neck and exploded in the air. Master Su Yu. Seeing that he was saved, Bai Xing hugged Su Yu directly into his arms. Stop! Su Yu hurriedly broke free, knowing that Bai Xing's body is still wet now. Where are you going? Flying into the air, Su Yu looked at the princess who had been kneeling on the ground over there. Her country was destroyed and she was also caught here. There is no doubt that her former relatives, including her family, are probably no longer in this world. The woman heard the voice, slowly raised her head, looking up at Su Yu, but there was no trace of color on her face. Even if she was saved, she didn't notice it. Su Yu saw that she was just looking at herself, and she didn't say a word for a long time, so she flew in front of her and took off the ring around her neck. Read more at hotmtlnovel.zi. Now you are free. If it is convenient to go where you want to go, please go. Su Yu watched her calmly. The pirate world is like this. Every day is full of fights. Even a kingdom has its time to fall. He is not a good person, but he is not a wicked person either. Since he has seen this, he should at least start to solve it. The woman was about to say something. Don't want to follow me, I'm very busy. Su Yu shook his head and said, even if the woman in front of him is pitiful, it doesn't matter to him. He saved her life as a conscience, how could he take care of her again? Boom. Suddenly a big hole was punched in the wall on the stage, and a man with a mouthful of white beard and reading glasses walked out. What happened outside? Why is there no one? I still want to rob my buyer. Rayleigh destroyed a hole in the city wall and walked out slowly. Long time no see, Rayleigh. Hearing this voice, Su Yu turned his head and looked on. It really was Rayleigh. Su Yu, why are you here? Rayleigh was shocked, then laughed. I came here naturally because I need something to ask you. Su Yu flew to the battlefield and said. Quote. Diaresis with your current status and status, there is nothing you can do, why bother looking for my old bone? Rayleigh laughed, took out the wine gourd around his waist, and took a sip of the wine. I want to go to Mermaid Island. I need to ask you to coat my boat with a rubber film. Otherwise I can't go. Su Yu spoke slowly. Mermaid Island. So, didn't you return to Chambord Islands via Mermaid Island from New World? Rayleigh asked in surprise. After thinking of something, he laughed. How about Zhao? Have you passed through the Holy Land Mary Geois again? No way. I was about to reach the Red Earth continent, only to remember that the ship was not coated, and there was no boatman who could be coated nearby, so I had to go through the Holy Land Mary Geois and return to the Chambord Islands. Su Yu waved his hand and said helplessly. In the entire pirate world, apart from celestial dragons and some marines, only pirates like Su Yu can freely enter and leave the Holy Land Mary Geois.